Hey, we're live. Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry for the late start. That was completely my fault. We were going to start at 8:30, 8:45, and then I needed to push it back because it was one of those days where, like, I'm actually somewhat organized. I'm not as organized as Vash, I will say. For me, I'm pretty organized today, but then I realized I was running out of time. I'm like, I need a little bit of extra time, but I think everything's slightly organized, and I say that and something will crash on my computer, but happy to be here on a Wednesday evening. It's actually kind of nice and cool here in Florida. It was really hot in the day, but you still got those nice evenings. So if I could do this outside, I would totally do it. It would fit the vibe, but I don't think it would work with the sound. But we do have a great panel here this evening. I will introduce everybody, and then we'll get going on some stuff here. But of course, we're joined by Mr. Orange Grove 55. Sir, thank you for being here. And where can everybody find you?
Yes, sir. It's an honor talking shop with you fine fellas and everybody in the chat at home. You can find me right here on YouTube, Orange Grove 55, also on Instagram, Orange Grove 55, and also on X, Orange Grove 55. Now, real quick before we move any further, I do want to give a quick little note here. For those of you that watch OG 55, you probably know of our dear friend, Mr. Webba. We love Mr. Webba. He's my CFO. He's my chief operating officer. He's amazing. he ranks really high at OG 55. We love Mr. Webba, but unfortunately, his cat, and I want to share my YouTube, my ex. His cat actually is going through some stuff, and him and his lovely wife Larissa, they set up a GoFundMe, and I don't know if I can actually share a GoFundMe on YouTube. So it's actually on my X. If you go to my X, Orange Grove 55, it's like one of the first tweets under Kendrick. Yes, I'm a big West Coast guy. I'm sorry. It's okay. I'm a big West Coaster, but in all seriousness though, like, for those of you at home that have pets, you know how serious this can be, whether it be dog, cat, whatever. Pets are family, and they're going through a rough go right now with their cat. So if you can donate or even just share the GoFundMe, it would be really appreciated. We love Mr. Webba. He's family here, so check it out. And I want to thank you gentlemen for having me on today.
Absolutely. Yeah, go check that out. Webba's good people. He is good people. Listen, I think you had a whole search. You got a team together to find your CFO, and maybe it was the same process that Disney went through. Very, very methodical of laying out who was going to be in charge.
Yeah, no, dude, I gotta say, Gorman was great, man. Great to work with. He found Webba. He was like, that's the guy, dude. Webba's your guy, dude. Okay, cool. I'll make him COO.
Figured it out pretty quickly. He was just like, yeah, that's him. Just go with that guy. I mean, he was the only one that applied, maybe, but hey, it's just like you work with who you got. You can't, you don't want to open up to the general public. I mean, you never know
Exactly.
We are also joined by Mr. Theme Park Conductor, who is not wearing a conductor's hat. And I am going to always tell him this, that he needs to just full on, just the whole overalls, the hat, get your train whistle. You just need to be a conductor. You know what I mean? Just full out. But Conductor's here. Thank you for being here. And where can everybody find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we just had all three of these amazing gentlemen on, and we talked about so many amazing topics, had a great time, and we have so many guests. And what I love about it is we just vibe out, nerd out, and we talk about the theme parks. The best topic of all.
It's true. I like that, vibing out, talking about theme parks. That's a good way to put it. I like that. That is nice. Yeah. You don't want to be too serious all the time. I can't be too serious all the time. My ADHD kicks in, and it's just like, we need to interject something here, and then my brain just says something weird. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But no, thank you for being here. And it is kind of like a redo stream we had the other night, which was a really good time. But we're also joined by Mr. Vash Sky. I don't know why. I thought today, I was like, I feel like I should call Vash Vashua, but I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Hey Vash, is that your full name? Is it Vashua?
I gotta check the lore here, but it might be. Vashua was dawned on me, I believe, for the first time on the Pro Show. He just made it up, Vashua, and so it's like, okay, well, there you go.
Original here, but anyways, thank you for being here, Vash. And where can they all find you? And go check out his channel as well.
Absolutely. You can, catch me on Vash Sky right there on X, as you can see right down there. Also, too, Vash Sky Parkcast on YouTube. On that channel, we actually just got past the threshold 5,000 subscribers. Major milestone for us. We're going to have a big celebration right there. Obviously, you guys are invited, so we'll go ahead and arrange for that very, very soon. But that is a tremendous milestone. I want to go ahead and thank each and every one of you out there for making that possible, because it wasn't just any one community. It was a mixture of communities really supporting me. So thank you so much, very much appreciate that. If you want to go ahead and watch those streams every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern following That Park Place, we do a 2-hour show right there, breaking in all this theme park news, and then we do it once again on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I think tomorrow we're going to go with a new time at 6:30. I know I've been wavering on this a little bit, but I think we are going to do the 6:30. I've been talking to people. It's like, okay, we want more Vash Sky. Okay, we'll go ahead and give it to you. And on Saturday for the members, we do a show called Vash and Vixen. And this time we're going to Hawaii in order to break down all the things that maybe Disney has done in the Polynesian realm. Very interesting, very fascinating stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out. That's every single Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Guys, we have so much theme park news to get through. It is absolutely insane. Even when we just do 2 hours on Vash Sky Parkcast, I look at the feed and I'm like, oh, there's even more news that just dropped. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's a good problem to have. I mean, it's better than trying to find the bottom of the barrel and find like dirt that's in the Magic Kingdom or something and be like, look at these trash cans, they're out of control, which sometimes they are. But
real quick, I talked to Conductor about this the other day. I'm really curious to hear Vash and Jared your opinion on this. And maybe I don't know. I'm OCD, okay? So I kind of go places like mentally that most people don't. The whole eating on the trash can thing for me is kind of gross because you don't know what's in that trash can. Like someone's dirty diaper could be in there and you're eating on it. Like, I don't know. That crosses my mind. I'll pick the bench.
So
usually.
Well,
I'm one that I will lay it on there, but I don't I'll pick it up and eat it off. Like I'll hold it while I eat it. I don't eat it off the trash can. I'm kind of a germaphobe naturally. So I've seen people though eat it directly. That's a good point though. You never know what's in the trash cans.
This is a Floridian thing, I think, not a California thing. When I first heard, oh yeah, just eat on the trash can, I'm like, what? Like, because I'm used to Disneyland tables and chairs pretty much everywhere. In fact, some CEOs get asked about the bench situation at shareholder earnings calls. That's how seriously they take the benches and the sit-down situation at Disneyland Resort. So it's like, okay, I'm unfamiliar with this idea of eating on a trash can, but it indeed is a thing. You see, Doji, it's not about the diaper in the trash can. It's about what if you got the mother who changes the diaper on the trash can and then you come in a couple days late, not a couple days, a couple hours later, and well, boom, there you go. See, that's what I'm concerned about right there. Don't like that. I just, look, if a table and chair is available, obviously that is preferable. But Epcot might be sorely in need of that, which is why the practice has become so ubiquitous among fans.
Yeah, it's an issue in Epcot. Also, it did change my perspective. Years ago, we had a former Imagineer on the podcast, and he worked on when they changed Maelstrom over to Frozen Ever After.
Right.
He decided to tell me that whenever you go to do these changeovers, one of the first things you do is you don't just repaint, you have to strip everything, because in the queues there accumulates a lot of, let's just say, disposal matters from people with their hands, kids, everything like that. And so a lot of times in these queues, they're covered in that. And that's one thing when you redo it, they have to scrape all that off and have this like whole cleaning thing. And I was like, I could have done without knowing that. Like I always assumed it was dirty, but I didn't need to know that much. But apparently that was an actual thing.
Well, Jared, if that bothers you, do not Google the McDonald's touchscreens.
Oh,
don't do that.
Oh,
no. Nor will I touch, at least in Disney World, that they have on the poo ride. They've got, I call it the flu board because it's this touch screen to mess with the honey. And with my kids, I'm like, do not touch that. That thing, get away from that thing. That thing is a biohazard sitting there. But yeah, it's not good. Even
well,
it's COVID, I always had hand sanitizer on me because when you're getting off a coaster, I'm like, this place is full of all sorts of stuff from all over the world, and I don't want it anywhere near me if I can avoid it personally.
Sure.
You see this OG like in queues, like Indiana Jones, for example, right? You're walking through there in the caverns, and you see that what Jared just described, this accumulation of human residue in some places, and you see like the wear and tear that these queues actually endure from people stranded in places for 10, 15 minutes at a time, and so it's like it builds up, man. It builds up. It's not like
it's like a compounding effect. Like compounding effect for money is good. Compounding effect for that is bad.
Right, exactly. You don't want a compounding effect for poop particles.
No, you
Maybe
really don't.
money, but poop particles, no.
Yeah, but it's the same logic there. It just accumulates over time, and then all of a sudden you're just like, what's on my hands? And let's not even forget, was it Guardians or what was the ride where somebody had a whole incident in the line a couple of years ago? Was that in Guardians or was that another ride? I'm trying to remember what that was.
I thought that was Rise.
Was it Rise? There was a queue where somebody could not hold it, and they let loose in the queue. And
that was Guardians, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it was Guardians.
It was Guardians, yeah. I remember covering that story. Also, too, Guardians, I don't know if you recently saw. Let me see if I can try to find it, but somebody broke a glass panel there. No good.
What?
So we had to, evacuate the portions of the queue right here. Let's see if I can find it for you. I'll put it in the... I'll share my screen if I do. So give me a moment.
Because Guardians has one of not the best queue, but it's pretty awesome when you walk through it and you're not stuck in one spot.
True.
Yeah.
That is very true. Yeah, it's
absolutely.
What was the thing I was gonna there's another thing I was gonna well, you have had the poo issues in the Magic Kingdom as well. I mean, with that whole the sewage lines breaking. It was an actual guardrail thing.
Yeah, it was actual, panel that assembles the guardrail right there. I was trying to tape it up.
He said, "Who broke it? Your mama ho." I'm like,
what is going on here? Oh boy!
Your mom is a 304.
oh, man.
Yeah. Does it take, by the way, 1, 2, 3, 4 people to do this?
That we can see, maybe even more. I like how 3 of us watching the one guy work, which is typically how you do that. One guy does
all the management for you.
It looks good. I think there may be another person back there too. I think there's actually 4 people watching.
Yeah, I think there's another head back there. Yeah, so 5 people there.
Good to know it's being well supervised.
It kind of reminds me of Caltrans cruise when you see like half the freeway blocked off and you see 1 or 2 guys working and you see like 10 guys that stand around just watching.
Oh yeah, that is a real thing down in Florida. The Florida workers, by the way, they are not scared. I literally was driving down the road yesterday and there's construction and they're just walking. And I thought the guy was going to walk in front of my car and they just stopped this tiny little middle section. I'm just like, you are having a lot of trust with these cars around here. But before we get going anything else, we do have a $2 from XVoot. Thank you.
Yes.
XVoot.
Thank you.
Jared, the epic re-review today was great. Well, thank you. Yeah, we recorded that for the podcast. We went back to Epic Universe and kind of had a 1-year mark of where that park currently is. And so if you're curious about it, it's over there. It's like 30-minute long video, but kind of broke down our day. And that park I still love the park, but the wait times are undoubtedly something you have to plan kind of your whole day around in many ways to kind of make it work. So
now I do think we got another super chat all the way from the UK with €2 from a Juliet. There she is.
There we go.
2 British pounds sterling.
Nice. British pounds sterling. Morning, Vash, Sky, Parkcast, and Skyliners. Hello, Juliet. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Juliet, and thank you for modding for us over there on the Vash Sky Parkcast.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into our first story, actually, I didn't tell you guys about this one, so I'm gonna spring this on you. I don't know if you guys are into this. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Let me find. Here we go. Who do you guys have for the Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey fight?
I don't really follow this stuff, but I'm going Gina.
Going Gina. Okay.
Bash. So the fight is Saturday, right? Is that right?
Yeah, in 2 days.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of people are very excited about this. Obviously, Ronda Rousey getting in the ring. Also, to Gina Carano getting back into the ring in order to do this right here. This should be very, very interesting. Oh, man, Ronda's tough. I'm going with Gina, right? Because I'm a big Gina Carano fan. But Ronda's no slouch in this arena right here. And I think age-wise, there's a disparity, right?
Yeah, Ronda is I don't know how much younger, but she's a bit younger. I want to say at least 5, maybe even more. So there is an age gap in there.
Yeah, a little bit, but we got to believe in Gina, guys. We got to support our girl.
I mean, she is, dude. Gina in her heyday, like, dangerous. So I guess it comes in like she's in really great shape. I have been seeing some of the stuff of them prepping for the fight. Like, she's in phenomenal shape for this thing. So regardless, I think it'd be good. But Conductor, who do you got?
I don't know. I might have to go Gina. And again, I'm like OG. I don't follow this stuff.
I don't follow. Yeah, I just went for the person I recognize. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm like, okay.
You just root for the hot chick, really. So you really going?
Yeah, Ronda Rousey. Remember, Ronda Rousey was undefeated for like forever, and she had just a tremendous run, super popular, super successful. And then when she lost, and it's kind of like over. It was like,
yeah, she got beat. Holly Holmes got her, which I know. I dabble and watch MMA stuff. I'm not like huge into it, but yeah, once she got beat by Holly Holmes, it kind of like changed her approach a lot. She just wasn't quite as dominant after that. But I'm actually kind of excited for the Nate Diaz. He's on this card as well. But if my thing is this, I'm rooting for I'm rooting for Gina. If Gina keeps it, like if she's just striking, I think Gina can take it. If it goes to the ground, though, I think Ronda will win because of she's got the whole judo background and things like that. So I think it kind of depends on how the fight goes. I think if Gina's going to win, it's not going to be by decision. I think it would be like she would get a knockout or something within the first couple of rounds. If it goes on longer, I think that's where Ronda would end up kind of maybe taking it. But
now our friend Rudio poses a great point here. I didn't know this, but Rudio saying that I guess Gina hasn't professionally fought in 15 plus years.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a long time. That's a thing.
And Ronda hasn't fought. I think she did some stuff at the WWE, but I don't think Ronda's fought professionally for at least 5 years, somewhere around there. So, I mean, whether or not it's 5 or 15 years, like you take time off, like, coming back is tough. So I think it's probably a little tougher on Gina, but we'll see. I mean, I'm rooting for Gina. I hope it's just a good fight. And then I don't like watching women fight, though. I don't want to see their faces get messed up. Like, as long as they come out, they look okay. You just don't want to see like a big old black eye or a cut against, up on the eye. It's just stuff like that I don't want to see necessarily. But
Jared, you and I are about the same age, bro, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I are the old dogs in the house, right? Do you remember Glow Wrestling?
Glow Wrestling. That sounds familiar. I don't know if I ever watched it though.
That was like back in the day, dude. Like probably early 90s. It was all female wrestling.
Oh, okay. I vaguely remember some. I never watched it, but I vaguely remember that. They should bring that back. I think that would do. Put it on YouTube or something.
Yeah, why not? Or Netflix.
I feel like there's an audience, or Netflix. I feel like there's an audience for it, undoubtedly. So, all right, well, let's get into our first news story, and we'll go and hit this one. We talked about this the other night on Conductor's live stream, which is, we've talked about this rumor. I guess you could still call it a rumor of when you're talking about Epic Universe, an open celestial park concept. And if you're unfamiliar with this, the idea here is that Celestial Park, which is the center area of Epic Universe, is the area you walk into. It's got a lot of restaurants, got merchandise, things like that. Got a couple of rides in there. But it was always rumored, even before the park opened, that this could become like essentially a City Walk 2.0, like free to the public after 5 o'clock. People could come in here and eat food, do all sorts of stuff. It was always just a rumor. It was something that, Universal's I don't believe has ever confirmed nor denied that they've even talked about this. But coming up on the 1-year anniversary, we've seen a few signs that this could happen. We've seen some facial recognition scanners at various times at some of these portals, which people have alluded to, like, why else would you do this unless you're going to do this open celestial park concept? And then there was a post on Instagram from Premier Beauty Shows, and not really affiliated with Universal, but they're having a convention at the Orange County Convention Center. And it says, enjoy an evening of complimentary admission to the Celestial Park area of Universal's Epic Universe, where you'll have access to a variety of dining, shopping, and live entertainment. Complimentary self-parking available after 5 p.m. Just present your Premier Orlando Conference badge ID. You can get dining reservations up. It goes on to say that you can't ride any attractions and things like that. But obviously, this is the blueprint for an open Celestial Park concept. Do you guys think this is a pretty good indication that Universal is starting to test this to make this a thing they end up doing? Or was all this just for maybe these conferences as a perk if they have some corporate events and they can come into Celestial Park, as part of their conference?
No, I think this is, they're testing. I mean, Vash and I did videos on this many moons ago. And they Universal has wanted to do these kind of things for a long time, and look, I understand the business, angle, right? Like if the restaurants aren't filling up and they can't have APs in there, open it up to the public and fill up those restaurants. I get the business end. I also get the guest, experience concerns where it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm paying for Epic Universe. People are flooding, the Celestial Park area, and now I'm waiting an hour and a half to go eat at this place, So I get we're paying, people who paid for a ticket. I can see where they would be upset. So there are a lot of logistical hurdles with this. I think Universal needs to prioritize people who paid for a Epic Universe ticket, right? So you get priority in those restaurants. I mean, you can't be, having everybody wait in the same line. I don't think that's fair, to be honest with you. But another thing too is I think this might be the future of theme parks. We talked about it a little bit on Conductor's channel, where it's like, Disney is very tight on space when it comes to even our third gate. We're going to talk about that later on today, with Disneyland Resort, possibly getting a third gate in that Toy Story lot. Well, if you don't have room for another downtown Disney, what do? Well, you can do something like this, where you open up the main thoroughfare or whatever to everybody, and you have dining and shopping, and you open that up to everybody. So I can kind of see this being the future of theme parks in a lot of ways, not just Universal. At the same time, though, there's a lot of question marks and a lot of problems that can kind of arise from this kind of model. So they're going to have to address those. The thing, though, that I do appreciate, I like when companies, whether Universal or Disney, I like when they think outside the box. Now, I would rather these companies think outside the box and fail every now and then, not all the time. You don't want to fail all the time, because then you become Sears. but you do want to think outside the box and try new things. I appreciate Universal for really thinking outside the box and actually trying something different. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you know what? At least they're trying something different. I think that's better than kind of resting on laurels and kind of doing the same old, same old. So kudos to that, So we'll see how it all shakes out. I do think that it's an interesting kind of approach to this. I do think, though, when it comes to the restaurants being empty, I think that is sort of an issue that Universal should address permanently later on. A big part of that is because there's not enough to do here. It's a lot of A+ attractions, not a lot of filler rides. That's one of the big issues with keeping people here later. Another big issue is no nighttime entertainment. That's another huge issue. So these are things that Universal can address as time goes on. Maybe you don't need the open hub eventually, or maybe you kind of reimagine that later on. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to it, but they have to address these concerns, though. You can't just open that up and then kind of screw over the people paying for the park tickets, right? So we'll see.
Yeah. I look at this and you look at it, you go, why is there a shop outside the Super Nintendo World portal? Why are your signature experiences, like dining, for example, in the Celestial Hub and not actually spread out within the portals themselves? And it's like, this was always part of this design in order to maybe even just try it out, but see whether or not this was actually viable in a theme park setting going forward. And I think this was imagined originally by park managers back in the 90s, I do believe, looking to rethink the theme park concept right here. And so, look, it's built into the DNA of this theme park that they actually do this. And we are hearing from various reports, like Theme Park Wizard, for example. I think he was very strong in his opinion that this park is not really, it's emptying out at a certain point, right? And Celestial Park is becoming emptier as time goes on, each and every single day. So it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe they do actually require this. Obviously, I think, Jared, you brought the fact that on, going forward, when it comes to these quarters and so forth, obviously these double-digit gains that have been seen in the last couple of Comcast quarters are a result of Epic Universe opening, right? But those are year over year. How does that look 1 year out? How do you get some more gains out of this park? Well, you do it by pulling those levers, maybe in this direction right here. Now, obviously, there's a delicate ecosystem for every single theme park, and so when you let in a mass amount of people from the outside into a park that's usually, to play, obviously that disrupts that. So that has to be taken carefully. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing basically a test of this system in action, just limited to conference goers. And even conference goers, you have to show your badge, and you have to do all these things in order to get in. So it is highly regulated in that respect. OG pointed out right there, I think this park really does need a nighttime entertainment package. There's no question about that. It keeps you in the park longer as you try to stick at your spot there to see the fireworks display or whatever they're actually going to have there. But how does that work with an open hub concept? Do you have everybody and their mother just, descending on Epic Universe to catch the fireworks presentation? It's going to be interesting to see how they regulate that. A lot of open questions here, but this certainly suggests to me that they are pursuing this concept, and conference goers, I think the Beauty Conference is going to be your first outlet for this.
I guess that maybe, it's interesting. It's a beauty one. Well, and that's a really good point. I mean, if you look, there's always reservations open in the evenings in Celestial Park. They want to bump up the revenue. And I completely agree with what you guys are saying. You got to balance this out with the guest experience, because you can't have people paying $200 to get in here. And then after a certain point, like, you can't use Celestial Park on some level. And so I think doing a small test like this, if I were to guess some of these details that we've even talked about, they're probably curious about as well. And the only way you're really going to figure this stuff out is by kind of doing it on some level. So by opening up to a smaller, I don't know how big this conference is, but a smaller group of people, it allows you to see, okay, here's some of the trends we're seeing. Here's some things we can do to alleviate this in X, Y, and Z. And it also could be, I mean, I know it's talked about, it could be to the general public, but it also could be something that's for APs. It could be for hotel guests. That doesn't necessarily mean that they would open this up to just everybody and their mom coming in here, but that could be a way that they kind of phase this in just to get more traffic in here. And I do think all the signs point to a fireworks show, some sort of nighttime show showing up here sometime this year. They had job postings for fireworks coordinators. There are all sorts of work going on the fountain, on the fireworks peninsula. And so I do think that is going to happen. It probably coincides with maybe having more people in Celestial Park whenever they do start that. Probably makes some sense there. But what are your thoughts on this, Conductor?
You're on mute, brother.
It was a good point, though.
Yeah, it was. Great point.
You hear me now?
There you go.
Okay. So, like I said during Conductor Sunday live stream, which you guys were all part of, they are taking a page out of the old playbook. And what I mean by that is when you look at...
Uh-oh. He's muted again. You're muted again, bro.
You might have a loose cord.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, fellas.
Hold on.
It's just some technical. I wish I had some elevator music. I could just start.
I know. Need some.
You hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
You're good. You're good.
You're good now.
Let me try this again.
Sure.
So they're taking a page out of Knott's Berry Farm, which is a local California park, which began with this concept. You walk in, you can enjoy, the festivities, all this stuff. But if you wanted to do the attractions, you wanted to do some entertainment, you would have to pay for it. And that's kind of what Vash was saying, how Epic Universe was built. Now, the reason why, at least in my opinion, we're seeing not the highest numbers for dining is I think like you gentlemen were saying, it's due to the point there's not enough to do. Like OG mentioned, there's not enough filler rights. Okay, there's all these e-ticket attractions that usually the standard's going to be an hour, and that's being generous. an hour for these attractions to get on, and then there's not enough to do. Once they start expanding Epic Universe, then that's a whole different story. And do I think this open concept is going to stick around? I do. But I think what's really going to boost the numbers for Epic Universe is not just the expansion of Epic Universe, but also adding that AP value to the park. Until they do that, it's going to be kind of hit or a miss. Don't get me wrong. I do like the concept of going in a Celestial Park and just hanging out and vibing out.
Yeah.
But what if too many people are doing that and they're not going into the restaurants in Celestial Park? What if they're not buying merch and they're just going in there and vibing out? Is that really a benefit for Universal?
That's a great point you make, Conductor, because it's kind of like a mall, right?
Yeah.
When you have a local mall, you can go into your local mall and the place can be packed with a bunch of teenagers hanging out.
Yeah.
But if those teenagers aren't buying anything,
Exactly.
the mall's not making any money. These are the teenagers hanging out are essentially empty calories at that point, right? So the people that come into this hub area, Celestial Park, yeah, I mean, and that's what Universal is going to kind of, test and see. But if they're coming in just to hang out and vibe, and they're not eating anything or spending any money, Universal is going to be like, you know what, this ain't worth it. We have a lot of bodies, but there's no money being spent, right?
Exactly.
So,
Well, this is
we'll see.
interesting. Okay, this is a very interesting point. I was just going to bring this up, and it kind of correlates with what we're talking about right now. Do we believe that Epic Universe or Universal is opening up this park to these convention attendees out of the kindness of their heart, or are they getting a check for that privilege? It sounds like they might be. And so maybe in terms of, when it comes to like selling this park a second time, potentially, to convention, what is it, organizers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Maybe it's inconsequential whether or not they do spend money because, well, money's already been spent and it's already changed hands. Is that a possibility here?
That's a great
It's
point.
definitely possible. I mean, I didn't even think about that angle, but it's definitely possible that these conventions would pay to be able to do that. I mean, I guess you could do like a comedy club, have a 2-drink minimum if you're letting people in for free. Like, you got to go buy something in here. You got to get your butt out of here. But I mean, realistically, yeah, some people could come in here and not do anything and maybe just check out the fireworks show. That's possible. But I think you would have people like getting food, getting drink. I do think that would be something that would happen. It would just.
You would honestly think, Jared, we had something, and I don't know if it's still around, OG. You can let me know. But back in the day for Downtown Disney, it was kind of like that same mentality. Like, people would go in and maybe dine in Downtown Disney. And if you dine at one of the participating restaurants, you spend the money that qualifies, you get free parking. That was an incentive. Maybe they're going to look at something like that angle for Celestial Park. Yeah, you can come in, but we expect you to buy something or to dine at one of our restaurants in Celestial Park to kind of, maybe justify maybe giving you that free parking or whatever the case might be. You know what I mean?
That's a good angle. Yeah.
Parking validation's a big deal. I was kind of thinking of the same thing, Conductor. I'm so glad you said it, because it's an amazing point. There are levers they can pull here in order to elicit more revenue, right? So, Ochi, for in your instance, it's like, okay, well, maybe we're worried about people vibing out. If in fact you do have a parking cost attached to actually going to here, maybe it's more purposeful for the people actually there, that they're actually going to be engaging in the products on the other side of the entrance gates. Maybe, possibly, potentially, even if they don't, maybe you set that parking at a certain price in which you're still getting revenue no matter what. In this test, actually, free parking after 5 p.m., but perhaps with future tests or future implementations, that changes in order to get maybe parking validation or revenue that way.
Well, let me ask you guys this. If the photo validation that we've kind of been seeing off and on with some of the portals here at Epic Universe, and let's say the Celestial Park open hub concept works, And we were talking about on my live stream on Conductor Sunday live stream how maybe Epcot and some of these other parks can incorporate that. Do you think if they nail down the technology here at Epic, could we see that same technology at the other parks where if, someone that paid to go into the theme park, obviously they do the facial recognition, they get on the ride. Someone that is just walking in the Epic or Epcot to just enjoy the vibes, maybe dine at one of the restaurants, but didn't buy a park ticket, and they go to, see if they could pull a fast one and try to get on, Guardians, and they do the facial recognition and it denies them because they didn't buy a park ticket. Do you see that technology sprawling out throughout the other parks if they nail it at Epic?
I mean, honestly, that's always going to be a thing. I think if anything is successful, you're going to see more of it. So
Well,
I think if it's a hit, they'll do more of it for sure.
They're
Go ahead,
doing
guys.
it at Disneyland, which is interesting to get into. Like, they're offering that, so I imagine that would come to Disney World. And I will say for the Universal one, it works really well. Like,
It
even when I
does.
have a hat on or sunglasses, like that thing recognizes me right away. Even
Eric,
it's much quicker.
I'm going to
Wow.
tell you this right now. When you do come back to Southern California and me and OG give you the tour of Disneyland and Universal Hollywood, especially Universal Hollywood, you're going to be so frustrated going through the line with the stupid fingerprint scanner. And you're
I
like,
remember
"God,
that.
I miss
remember
home.
that. Yeah.
I miss home." Because God, we live in the dinosaur age at Universal out here in Southern California.
Well, I think a lot of and not to get too, not to get too political, but I mean, I think it's really because these companies know that, right? But
Oh,
I think a
sure.
lot of the companies are their hands are tied because of the unions and things like that. So,
And
right?
Consumer protection laws and so forth.
Yes.
I know I had an analysis performed on the provisions as they related to both California and Florida, the differences and so forth. California's much more strict with that, so implementation has to be done accordingly. I think Disneyland is implementing best practice out there in California, but it's not nearly as maybe ubiquitous. The implementation in the ease of it over there in Universal in Florida anyway, they definitely have the upper hand when it comes to convenience, walking through, etc. But that's the thing, Jared. I mean, I think a lot of those systems are patented, so you'll see differences in their approaches, obviously. But I think this is the future for theme parks, really.
Yeah.
Real quick, guys, I just want to bring up a couple comments from Ben because I think he brings up a good counter argument here.
I was going to bring this up too. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I know Ben saying, I know you guys discussed this park was built around this multi-use, which is true. Like I said, Vash and I did videos on this in like 2021. It's crazy, but it's not. But is it not concerning that Epic is having attendance performance issues so early into its park life? Like, what do you guys think about that? Because that is kind of an issue. And it's not attendance maybe from a demand standpoint. It's attendance from like them blocking people out because the park can't sustain that many people. But even so, that's still concerning though.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah, it's a different issue for the attendance because the whole reason they would be looking at this is they've had record-breaking quarters since Epic has been on the books, but the maximum capacity of this park is probably somewhere, I was told 40 to 50,000 guests, which like you were saying, Vash, I can't even imagine this park with that many
That's
people in
crazy.
there.
No.
But if you already have these wait time issues, which it does, we were just there on last Thursday. How else, okay, how are you going to get more revenue out of this park? Like, you can't really put more people in here that are getting into lines to ride things because then it's just completely unmanageable. But if you start looking at stuff like this, you could see how this could add to revenue. I think the one lever they're going to pull, from what I've heard as well, are after hours events at Epic. And I think those would go over great. I think, for one thing, this park is great at night. This is when it shines. You could have, I don't know how much they'd pay for it, but probably be $200, something like that, kind of like what Disney does. You get 10 o'clock till 1 in the morning. You get to ride these rides without much wait. I think things like that would go over very well. So I think, though, it's not just this concept. I think they'll be looking at other things they can do. They sent out surveys talking about Epic Universe APs a couple of months ago. So they're looking at things. I do think they at least experiment with this open concept idea. Maybe they try it with these conventions, and if they see that these conventions are just like, okay, this isn't going to work. But like Vash was saying, I think they did design this park with this at least as an option in mind. Maybe they didn't intend to always do it for sure, but you build it into the, plan B. Like, okay, we're having these issues with this. We have this ability to do this, and at least exploring it. And I think they will explore it. I'm just curious about to what level. Like, I'm not totally convinced it's going to be open to the public necessarily, but I think there could be, like we were saying, APs or hotel guests or something along those lines. I think they're at least going to start exploring that end in this period of time when they're wanting to show more revenue quarter after quarter at the 1 year mark of Epic.
Well,
let me ask you guys a question, because Remy D's posing a great, I guess, comment / question. Universal gets a lot of benefit of the doubt and leeway. Is that true here? Like, do you feel like if Magic Kingdom was doing this, it would be a different conversation? And I think it's a fair question to pose, Yeah,
I think it would be a different conversation, only because Magic Kingdom is built so much differently. It doesn't really have it has a hub and spoke, but it doesn't have this segmentation naturally to it that I think Celestial Park benefits from. It doesn't have the infrastructure that this park was built with in order to accommodate these things. You got to think when this park was originally conceived back in the 1990s, 2000s, right there, Disneyland. I'm sorry, Walt Disney World anyway. We all know the Vacation Kingdom, but really there was a Convention Kingdom out there at around that time, right, where convention business was huge for these parks. This was right before the social media era, and so the idea, Jared, of having corporate events in here or having after hours parties in here and segmenting portals off, all of that is kind of built in to this fabric, and its implementation is relatively straightforward, as opposed to a kind of modern, a pre-existing theme park in which, segmenting off sections, like maybe Main Street in Magic Kingdom, for example, or, a land in Disneyland, that might be kind of tough to do, relatively speaking.
True. We actually talked about this, Vash, and I'm glad you brought that last part up. Me and OG did a video talking about this, because we brought up about Disneyland After Dark events, particularly Star Wars. And we said, basically the whole boring conversation was, it's always the same thing. You have Star Wars events and activities all throughout the park instead of the one land that it should be in. And I told them, I said, well, what if they allowed, people that had reservations to come into Disneyland, right? And they had all the Star Wars activities in Galaxy's Edge, like all of it. So the only way to get into Galaxy's Edge is the mere fact that you would have to have had that After Dark event ticket. But Disney can really capitalize on having those guests that bought that special ticket for that event and also enjoying the rest of the park. And then you could just have regular day guests go in at night as well. So it's almost like the best of both sides of the coin for them, for revenue. And that's kind of what I see Epic Universe, because I talked to Jared about this, and even OG, about, if you want to do After Dark events, each portal can really utilize Celestial Park as an extension for that portal. That's what Celestial Park I kind of see is for these portals for an After Dark event. You know what I mean?
That's a fair point. Well, let me ask you guys a question. How does the Helios play into all this? Like, does the Helios, will they get special, like, what's the word for it? Like when you book a room at the Helios, right? You have to still buy a separate ticket for Epic, right?
Right.
So with this open hub concept, would they maybe get a little extra, maybe perk? Like you get the open hub, but maybe you get access to maybe a couple of these portals if you book a room. I mean, that would be kind of interesting, right?
That would be kind of interesting. I never really thought of that. The way I always thought about the Helios' implementation is that, hey, anybody who's actually staying there gets access to the open hub concept. I mean, like, so in this instance, right, it's only limited to convention goers. in this particular test that they're actually undergoing. But going forward, if they actually widen this out, or if they keep this open hub concept going forward, then like Helios by default, boom, you get access to Celestial Park. At least its shops and dining opportunities after a certain time. I think that's honestly that should have been a thing on day one. To be quite honest with you, and again with that perk, or maybe you don't have the after 5 limitation or whatever. You can charge more for the Helios with that perk there, and maybe. Oh, gee, maybe it gets more granular. Maybe if you get concierge, the Helios, maybe you do get access to the portals with that. That kind of thing. You can definitely do that.
Absolutely. And we got Hey Bricky in the house. What is going on, Hey Bricky? Everybody at home, make sure you subscribe to Hey Bricky on YouTube. Also, his secondary channel, Bricky Vlogs. We love Hey Bricky. He is an absolute awesome content creator and a great friend of ours. But he says here, you remember when we all had cable and got all the channels for one price. Theme parks are starting to go the way of TV. Pay for the ticket and then also the lands and the rides, double dipping times too. Vash, what are your thoughts, man? I mean, he's not wrong. He is not wrong.
Bricky is correct. The whole model of the modern theme park is not just selling the initial admission to the day guest. It's selling these parks multiple times per day. We see that with after hours parties. We see that with corporate events. We see that with a range of different options, a range of different levers that these theme parks can pull in order to sell the square footage multiple times a day. It's just that I think this is the pathway going forward right here. Certainly, I mean, look, it's old things become new again. Everybody's just waiting for these attractions to have separate, tickets along with them, right? And then we're really back to this
the ticket booths are coming back, Vash. They're coming back, dude.
Right. I mean, it's what's old is new again. As these theme parks, really are battling for revenue, and especially with like regional theme parks, for example, not doing especially well. At least the big chains like Six Flags, United Parks, and so forth, they haven't had great quarters. The big two, obviously, doing very, very well. There's no question about that, especially as it relates to some of those regional parks and chains and so forth. But the whole idea is to how do we extract more money with maybe less guests going forward, and so that's definitely the thing. Well,
we saw that recently with Disney's last quarterly earnings call. They made more money with less people. Yeah, and I don't think Disney's crying about that. I don't think they're upset about that at all. I mean, from a business perspective, you're looking, okay, we don't have to have as many cast members. And I mean, look, I love our cast members, but from a business perspective, they're thinking less cast members are needed. And from a guest satisfaction situation, you have people who are waiting in shorter lines. I don't see the downside from Disney's perspective, right? Like you're making more money, but you're getting all this on the other end. So it's interesting. It's a very interesting kind of equation here,
It is. I do think there's an upper limit when it comes to that, right? I think you can only charge so much before it's like people pull back. And if we see the per cap spending there, people are paying more, obviously, for experiences. I think as it relates to the earnings call, the gains that they made in terms of per cap spending was due to inflation more than anything else. So people paying more doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get exponential revenue growth, because people just go, okay, well, I'm going to spend money for that. I'm not going to spend money for this. And so there is a balance and delicacy there that is applied. Also to what is it, the valuation from a guest perspective that could hurt you long term. Hasn't hurt Disney yet, but I think long term, it's dangerous waters there.
No, you're right, Vash, and I think you're right. I don't think it's hurt Disney yet, but I will say this: I'm a diehard Disney guy. I mean, I am. I love this company. I started a YouTube channel almost a decade ago based on all this stuff, right? I love it. But Universal, though, with the after hours events, and I've said this before, but I mean, they are just doing a better job, dude. And it's like, you can only, even as a Disney fan, you can only experience that so many times before you sit back and go, you know what?
It gets old.
it's a better value. I mean, I paid $40 for FanFest with my AP. $40. And I got a nighttime spectacular with the one-piece thing and the whole 9 yards. You're not getting any of that at a Disney After Hours event. You're not getting that on Disney Channel night. I'll tell you that right now. You're not getting a fireworks show or any of that. You know what I'm saying?
And there's that great survey of what is it, Lending Tree, that they published, I think in June of 2024, where like 45% of Disney-going parents with young children have gone into debt for a trip and so forth. So it's kind of like, it's definitely starting to hurt the consumers, no question about that. Whether or not they pull back, obviously it's anybody's judgment call, and maybe Disney is more insulated from that than Universal, right? But the valuation... OG, I think you're not the only one making this calculus. I think a lot of people as well are making this determination where it's like maybe value for money, Universal's a better option, or some other theme park chain. So it's that I think if Disney got caught in some trouble, it was with the opening of Epic Universe. I believe there was some cannibalization there, and when it comes to valuation, it's like, okay, well, if these two parks are the same in terms of price, I'm gonna go with the new hotness. Why go to Magic Kingdom? Why go to Epcot, etc. When they don't necessarily have anything new? That right there, it shows the boundaries of the strategy.
Well said. Well said. And Jared, you are back. I'll let you take over the hosting ability.
No,
but we have Hey Bricky in the house. Hey, Ricky.
What's up, Ricky? What's up? No, I saw the comment. I mean, I've been saying, and this is not like scientific or anything, but it's like, and I agree with you, Vash. It hasn't hurt Disney yet, but this stuff works until it doesn't. When you're basically getting all your revenue from just increasing prices. And this also goes into, listen, I'm a capitalist, but one of the weaknesses of publicly traded companies is now with investors, it's like you got to show every single quarter, you got to have more money, and it gets a very short-term mindset. And I think it's very easy to just fall into that. And this is how you start cutting corners. This is how, well, if we cut back on maintenance, this is going to bring down an expense. We can show more profits. And I think stuff like that, like ideally, it would just be a situation where it's like these parks run, like you don't necessarily have to know all these things. But I think with all of that in there, it is kind of becoming like what cable, which is funny. Cable became streaming, and now streaming is becoming cable.
Hey. Everything old is new again, Jared.
100%. And so, like,
I love it.
You could see this in theme parks where it starts this, and then if the consumer, and I've said this whole time, it's hard to fault Disney if I'm selling cups and I'm selling for $20, and then I sell it for 30 and 40 and 50, and people keep still buying it. Nothing changed about the cup, by the way. It's still the same cup. It's hard to fault somebody to be like, well, they're paying for it, until I finally go to $80 and people are like, I'm not paying $80 for that thing. Well, then what do? Do I lower the price? Probably not. You go into value. And I think this is what Disney would do. It's like you start really upping the value, like more perks. Like exactly. You got levers you're going to pull there.
Right.
But it's still a thing where like I would love to know with Disney, what is the price they want a single day ticket at?
I can answer the question right now. Whatever price people are not willing to pay anymore. Yeah. They'll go as high as they can. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I think once people stop paying it, and that's why I get so frustrated with the Disney adults. I'm sorry, my Disney adults. I love you. I'm a Disney. I mean, we're all fans here. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes you got to look a little inward and kind of tackle our inner demons, right? And I think that sometimes the Disney fans are a little too quick to just throw their money at this company. I think if we pull back a little bit in certain situations, I think we would have a better outcome, because Disney would be like, you know what? We can't just give them $40 lemonade anymore. We have to actually provide something of value. You know what I'm saying? But there's so many people that are willing just to, like, any after hours event or anything that Disney gives us, we're going to take it. And that's the problem.
That's true.
It's crazy. The reduction of value. I mean, it's not just the higher prices, which I think, Disney is always about higher prices, right? Jared, to your point right there, upping the price of the cup, whatever. But it's like the reduction of value as well with that. Like, for example, hey, Fast Pass used to be included. Not so much anymore. Magic Bands used to be included with your stay at Disney hotels. You used to have Magical Express. all the things that really created that sense of value, almost gone. And it's like wow, that's really something. Card Walker, the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, what, in the 1960s?
I thought he was early 80s. I could be wrong. Wasn't he Epcot or no?
Yeah. It's like right before the opening of Epcot.
Yeah.
He was very much like, hey, like, value is an important piece of our product, and they were very much like, hey, you get tremendous value if you come to the Vacation Kingdom, because they knew of the expenses related to travel, especially around that time. So the fact that the Disney Company has stepped away so aggressively in this instance is kind of shocking. Actually, I do have I had a chart for you, Jared. If you want to go ahead and share this one right here, give me a second.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and share it on the screen right now. Let's see. Where is it? I had it. Okay, I had it at one point. I may have lost it. No, okay, yeah, here we go.
He has like 80 tabs he's got to figure out. So
right, yeah. There you go. This is the famous one right here.
Yeah.
Just how much, especially since from the 1980s, right, where Card Walker was, hey, see ya, along with Ron Miller, adios. We're going in a different direction. Just how exponential this price has become in relation to other expenses like rent, wages, gasoline, etc. And this just goes to like 2020.
Yeah,
this does not include the recent years. Yeah, so it's aggressive.
Well, and I think when you look at it, it's one of those things where so much of a vacation, and vacations are different. I would say Disney World is in the business of creating memories or helping people create memories, and so a lot of a vacation is how you feel. And I think a lot of things that went into what made, whether you're talking about Disneyland or Disney World, unique were the little things. Like you could be on a trip and the cast member does something special, or an interaction with a character, things like that. That's not quantifiable on a spreadsheet. And I think we've talked about Shakeup, but he's not the only one that manages this way. And so you start looking at a spreadsheet and you're like, well, Magical Express is costing us like however much money per year. What if we just cut that? Well, you cut that, you got more money. Okay, well, what's this doing? And then you start this, and I think we talk about in your live stream, Vash, of like the efficiency stuff, but you start cutting this out of rides where, yeah, stuff's running, but the little touches aren't there anymore. And these things don't show up on a spreadsheet. And then all of a sudden, all these things together, and you're like, what happened? What's going on here? And it's kind of like losing your soul a little bit of what you were. And I think that's kind of what Disney has fallen into a little bit here. And really, until there is pushback on the pricing, I always look at the Christmas and Halloween parties. They've raised those prices incredibly the past few years, and they still sell out every year. So there's no incentive for Disney. And now, if those weren't selling out, Disney might think, okay, we need to revamp these parties. We need to do something new. We need to look at maybe better pricing. But if they're selling out,
but see, you make an excellent point, and that's exactly what Vash and OG said. As long as people keep buying them, and the events sell out, Disney's not going to change. The only way to change it is to stop giving in so easily.
Yes, exactly. And I will give Disney a little bit of I'll give Josh Diamaro some credit actually right now. I did a great video or live stream last night with the one and only Mr. Seymour Duck. It was a members only, but like we talked about Josh Diamaro's like comments at that Disney Upfront event, and he was talking a lot about actually. Now look, I get it. Like I'll be the first to say it. Josh Diamaro has a lot of riz. Okay, the guy he knows how to game. He does. He knows how to talk. But really, what he was saying though made a lot of sense. He talked about long-term building trust in the brand. This is a different kind of company. Vash, you probably heard this on the Deadline article, right?
Category of one. Yes.
And he was getting into this stuff about how like, you have to make a long lasting impression on guests. It's not like short term, yada, yada, yada. Again, it's talk. We'll see how he actually follows through with this stuff. That's a whole different, conversation. But I do like what I'm hearing. I think that's a good place to start. So hopefully this kind of like culture changes with tomorrow. We'll see though,
Well, and I was a point, if Disney's going to change, let's say that tomorrow is implementing things, the things he's saying doesn't make sense. Disney is the biggest of the biggest cruise ships you can imagine of trying to turn that thing around. That takes a lot of effort, time, and energy to do that. So
Right.
these are things that, like, maybe he is being forthright. They do plan on doing these things, but these are not things you're going to see immediately.
Mhm.
But it's like, where does this look in a year, in 2 years? Is there improvements? And I heard the same thing. I hope it's not lip service. If it is lip service, that's not going to be good on his look in the coming years if he said all these things and nothing changes.
You
So,
know,
But
gotta follow through.
yeah.
it's interesting you bring up cruise line, Jared, because why has cruise line exploded? One of the reasons I do believe is the all-inclusive nature of that product. Right now, they're trying to portion some stuff out right there with bungalows and so forth, or cabanas or whatever, and a whole other extra incentives to spend more money, right? But the core product right there is really the all-inclusive nature of those experiences, and why. I mean, that business has exploded for them. Partially why Thomas Muslim got the job and all of that history connecting to that. And for Josh Tomorrow, there is a little bit of hope. Remember when Bob Iger actually originally came back? Remember they had that big powwow right there where it was like, hey, you know what? We've evaluated the Disney park experience. We're rolling some things back. We're providing more value days, for example. We're eliminating parking for hotel guests at Walt Disney World, which is just insane. You know, a lot of different things in order to, I think improve the image of the Walt Disney Company from being a nakedly greedy company, maybe under like the Chapek era, to something that was a little bit more friendly. Now, they didn't eliminate all those things. They didn't bring back a lot of the things that I think people were wanting, like Magical Express, for example. But there was some movement there in that regard. So there is a little bit more optimism in that. But meaningful changes, look, experiences is the only thing. Oh, gee, it's the only thing contributing to the bottom line of the company at this point, in a very meaningful way. With the problem with cable is with cable out now in terms of that big, year-over-year revenue gain for the Walt Disney Company, where are they going to find that OI? It's going to be the parks, and it's going to be the parks for a while, and that's why Josh Tomorrow is the guy. But go ahead, OG.
Well, real quick, we are getting a call in. Yes, sir. We'll take your call right now.
Apologize for not being the ally that you needed me to be.
There you go.
True.
Chapek chimed in.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Always saying that.
Hey,
just never
hey,
means
you can blame Vash for getting me the roadcaster because I absolutely abuse it.
Absolutely.
I don't think you abuse it enough, because I actually meant to put some Shamones on my soundboard and I didn't get around to it today, but it is going to happen, and you guys are going to be inundated with random sounds. But exactly. Everyone,
I see this as an absolute win.
Exactly.
There we go, man.
The Bart Scott one from years. It was a post-football game, and they asked him, he's like, "Can't wait." And I just always wanted to use that "can't wait" thing for something I'm looking forward to. But like it's one of those things where, and Shan Norani said they don't want to lower prices because they are afraid what they will say to Wall Street, and said they give out discounts. I don't think it's as much now. There is a Wall Street aspect to this, undoubtedly.
Absolutely.
I think Tomorrow was a Wall Street pick. If you were to honestly, I think that's one reason why he got it, because of the tech stuff and being, technology driven. But that's the interesting thing. If they hit a point where they raise these prices, and I've said too, like by the time these lands open at Disney World, don't be shocked if you're looking at $250 or more for a day ticket. I mean, we're going to blow through $200 or $300 quicker than we did $100 to $200. Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's like, what do they do? Let's say they put the prices at $250 and it's not moving like they want. What do they do then? And I don't think they're going to outright just say, okay, the base price now is $100 less. They're going to do discounts.
Yep.
They're going to deal on the perk side. Like, a lot of it is the brand optics. They want to be viewed as this premier destination, which is why when Disney raises prices, Universal also does. Now they want to make money, but they also want to be looked at in the same caliber as Disney. So pricing does that. Same thing with Apple, things like that. So a lot of it is how they want to be perceived, but then you have actual real world things going on with people not buying the stuff. That's whenever it gets interesting, because then what do they do at that point? And do prices just stick at that price point for a while until they feel like they can move it again? That's the part, once they hit that, I've always been theorizing, like, what would they do at that point? And I think that's interesting.
Now we have a super chat. I don't know if it's from my channel or your channel, Jared, or conductors, or I don't know. But Remy D, is it mine?
I think so.
Okay.
Mhm.
With a $10 super chat, thank you so much, Remy D. Why is Universal not given the same scrutiny? In 1990, the price Magic Kingdom was $31. Universal Studios was $30. Now Magic Kingdom is now 570% higher than Universal Orlando is 480% higher. Not much difference. I mean, that's a fair point. That is a fair point that he's bringing up. I will say out here, I don't know about Orlando, and Jared, you can speak to that way more than I could. But Universal Hollywood, I'm there all the time. It's cheaper to get in, but once you're in, it's the same price essentially. Like the food, the drinks, all that is pretty much the same as Disney, But you will pay less for your AP though, right?
Yep.
So but I don't know how it is in Orlando. But go ahead, Jared. You can kind of touch upon that
It's
one.
similar. I mean, I think Universal doesn't get the same scrutiny because they don't have as many people covering it. As Universal continues to grow, and you're already starting to see that scrutiny will follow, I think, because when you're looking at a market, when you hit about 35% market shares, when you're kind of looked at as a co-leader, Universal is not that far away from that. I think the last estimates I saw, they might be at 32% market share, somewhere around that ballpark, maybe. So I think that will come. And a lot of the reason that Universal does that, again, they don't want to be viewed as the B team compared to Disney. So like a lot of that, and of course they want to make money, but I think the scrutiny will follow for Universal. But it's just Disney's like, they've been around for decades. They're the number one destination. Like they're a well-oiled machine. And I can tell you, like going to Epic Universe on Thursday, going to Magic Kingdom on Sunday, Magic Kingdom is a well-oiled machine. That park runs very, very well for the most part. And so I think a lot of these operations have been in place for a very long time. And so you have the tradition of Disney, how people remember it. That's why there's also a lot of scrutiny, and Universal just doesn't have that, at least yet. I think they will eventually do that as they continue to grow, but it's not like Universal is a discount destination. I mean, a lot of times it can be cheaper depending on how you price it out. And the APs, there's various levels. Like the APs typically are cheaper at Universal. So it's like it just depends how you look at it. But I do agree the scrutiny isn't there as much, but I think it is starting to build up a little bit, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, because the more emotion you get behind, like Disney has a lot of emotion behind that fandom.
Yes.
Like people are super emotional about Disney, right? So there's more anger. It's like parents, right? You're going to be more angry when your kid gets a D on a test, and if like the kid down the street gets a D on the test, right? Like you're going to be more angry at your kid because you are more invested in your kid. You love your kid, obviously, right? So it's the same thing with Disney. I think people really, really have this emotional connection to this brand, so they're harder on it. And there's a lot more heart into that, but that is changing a little bit. I do feel like there is that Universal fandom is coming up, and a lot of people are getting emotional now about Universal. And so I agree with you, Jared. I do believe there is going to be, it's going to take a while, but like I do believe people are going to also start to hold Universal more accountable because they are starting to build that nostalgia machine, and it's a double-edged sword here. I mean, it's a good thing for sure, but it also leads to more scrutiny. Go ahead, Vash. I do apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, I think it's a beautiful commentary right here. No, I remember Disney marketed itself for a lot of years as a rite of passage, right? And they really advertised themselves as like a middle class product. And so stepping away from that is definitely a big shift, right? Big cultural shift, and people have a lot of emotions tied into that, as you beautifully outlined. Also, too, I think people inherently understand that the price aggressivity in this market is driven by Disney, not Universal. And that's the other kind of thing too, where Universal gets a pass because everybody kind of knows that Universal is just matching Disney. Now, I think Universal also has a little bit more aggressiveness when it comes to their discounts and so forth, like buy 3 days get 2 free, that kind of thing, where Disney doesn't necessarily do a lot of the same promotions. But this is why I think Universal gets a pass largely too. And look, I mean, if you're looking at 570 versus 480, it's still 100% difference there, or just about.
Yeah, and I think too, when you look at Universal not getting as much scrutiny also allows them to try more stuff. And I think you're willing to try different things and be a little bit more aggressive on those things when you don't have the eye of Sauron on you all the time. Disney does. Right. Disney moves a trash can, and people are going to write articles about it. And so that's a good and a bad thing if you're Disney, because it means some of the changes are just going to get way more scrutiny, whereas Universal can take some more chances and kind of operate more in ambiguity in some ways. So I think if you're going to take chances, which Universal is doing, I mean, they're the up and coming destination. They're kind of like that team that's got the younger players that's trying to make a run for it. You're willing to make some moves that the person on top isn't. And again, once you get on top, I mean, look at this in a sports analogy. How many teams that are just meddling never get much coverage, and then all of a sudden they win a championship and all eyes on them? I think it's the same thing here, just a different way. It takes longer with these types of things. It'll come, but I think in the meantime, Universal can benefit from not as much scrutiny by trying some stuff like FanFest. Like that was a whole new concept they tried that could have crashed and burned. And so far, it looks like that's going pretty well, that they can build off that momentum.
Yeah.
Look at Jollywood Nights. That got introduced, and that was lambasted way more than probably FanFest would have been if that wasn't a good event. So, you know, things like that it's a good and a bad thing. If you have the scrutiny, that means you are growing, but at the same time, it does kind of force companies to operate a bit differently, I think, whenever they do start getting more of that ire of the crowds on them.
Well, you know, a great example of this, right? Where like there's pros and cons to this stuff, right? Where it's like Disney has a lot of invested emotional connection, right?
Mhm.
Which is great. I mean, any company would want that. Josh D'Amaro mentioned it in Disney Upfront. Like we have that, other companies want it. And he's not wrong with that, right? But with that emotional investment, like you were saying, Jared, your hands are more tied. So, for example, the Oriental Land Company over there in Japan, they're not owned by Disney. They kind of do their own thing. They, you know what I'm saying? They just license out the Disney IP. They have the freedom to bulldoze their Space Mountain and rebuild it with a whole new kind of concept.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have that ability, or we do, but Disney doesn't necessarily have the balls to do that because of that emotional connection. Do you think that the fans out here in the States would be okay with them bulldozing our Space Mountains and rebuilding them with something totally new? Probably not.
After Challenge by Adventure, no.
I mean, yeah, you that, yeah. And just in general, I just think that fans are very, like, I've seen crappy rides get pushed back. Like, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pushback, and Disney's scared to make a move a lot of times because, oh man, if we get rid of this thing, you know, so it's like, it's tough. But, you know, we kind of see what happens though in Japan when they don't have that same kind of those handcuffs. They can do that. They can bulldoze that thing and reimagine it. And like, you know, I wish we can have that. Unfortunately, I just don't think the fandom is able to do that out here. Unfortunately, you know.
I think they you know, they're getting a little bit more aggressive when it comes to like Rivers of America, for example. It didn't stop them there.
That's true. So, I mean, that's true. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
You know, it's like I definitely a lot of emotion tied up in this, and I think Thomas Muslim, who spoke with WW Radio, I believe, talked about this as well. The emotional connection that people have to the products and the responsibility that comes with that and all that stuff. I just you know, it's I think Jared's right on. I think you were right on as well, OG. But Jared, for sure, this idea that that they can, Universal is allowed to take more risks because they're in second place, and I think we see that every single day with a lot of the maneuvers. Like, I mean, would Disney ever try an open concept? Probably not. But Universal, hey, you know what? Give it a shot. See how it works. Let's do it, yeah. and let's see what happens. And so some of that experimentation actually amounts to some good things. Like, for example, Wizarding World. Wizarding World, nobody had ever conceived a park like that ever, or a land like that. You know, it's like the shops are way too small and stuff. It's like, how are you going to get people through here? Like, you know, it just doesn't work on an operations level. And yet, well, it's unbelievably successful. And so it's like, okay, well, that forces Disney to say, okay, well then we had to match that as well. So it's that tug and pull that we see so often.
Well, a lot of times Disney lets Universal, the Wizarding World is a good example, and even let's say that Universal does this open Celestial Park concept and it works really well. You talk about on the Conductor's channel about how they could do that with Epcot. Once they see the concept work, it's not as much of a risk at that point then to say, oh, okay,
right,
we'll do this as well. And so you kind of let your competitor that's making these aggressive moves, like maybe they're going to make mistakes you don't emulate, but the successes, you're like, well, let's do that over here. So they can kind of pick and choose how they want to do that. Remy D did have another 10 here. Said not to offend anyone. I just think Disney gets more because of the monetization of anti-Disney sentiment. We all know Disney bad gets more clicks.
Well, you're not wrong, Remy, but here's the thing. That kind of plays into what we've been saying, though, where there's more emotion behind Disney. So if Disney's getting more clicks, it's because of that reason, right? And I don't agree with that. I mean, I don't agree with I don't agree with just being negative for the sake of being negative, but I mean, that plays into the idea that there is more interest in Disney. Like there's more emotion behind it. Like that's not necessarily a bad thing for Disney, but like it's going to attract more of that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? What say you guys?
Have the emotion to a brand, you also have the flip side of that, which is it can be an anger to a brand because you feel it's like if you're, an ex-girlfriend cheats on you or something, you've got a lot more anger toward her than somebody else that had the same situation. So it's like there can be a flip side to that emotional thing there. And to be honest, like on YouTube and social media, does anti-Disney work or does it get clicks? It does, but that doesn't translate to the real world. I mean, things on like Twitter and YouTube for the most part are not real life. And so even if it gets clicks online, which it definitely can, I don't think that necessarily translates to the general public and how their sentiments are, their pricing and things like that. So it's part of it. But again, I'm not going to be shocked in 10 years if Universal's having the same thing. As they grow, they're going to make changes. And there's going to be things that the fan base does not like about what they do. And you could definitely see a situation where people start having anti-Universal stuff. You've already seen it a little bit as Universal.
Hey, we do.
Grow. So it's one of those things like they'll both have it. It just kind of goes with this. I mean, it's the same thing with any company of people have a lot of emotion around Apple and Microsoft, not as much around Oracle necessarily. Even though
we're seeing this already. Oh, sorry, Jared. I do apologize.
Oh, you're good.
Well, we're seeing this with Lost Continent, for example, right? Lost Continent, people have a lot of strong reactions to that. And Jared, we see that all the time, actually, maybe even predating Disney in some respect, or at least hitting different markets that maybe Disney doesn't. With sports, right? This emotional tie to your favorite sports team and so forth, that's been going on for decades. So it's always going to have, as people become more attached to these things, you're always going to have more emotion to it, and that will predate there or be the impetus for, clickbait or emotionally tied content that you described there, Remy.
Well, and also I always say with sports, listen to any sports talk radio, and you'll hear people talk about, and you would think these people like they're calling in like, we need to get rid of the manager, like going nuts about all the things you need to make. And they're like, whoa, do you hate the team? They don't hate the team. They actually love the team. They want the team to do better. There's just emotion around it. So I also just will simply say it's also theme parks. It's not really that important. I mean, it's fun to talk about. Obviously, we talk about all the time, but it's like, these things are not like life and death. And so I think that's one thing that sometimes online it can get a little, people take things very seriously, but I like to, as much as like we did a whole thing about Epic Universe, and I still love that park, but it has legitimate issues that Universal is going to have to figure out. And they get some great, even if Disney opened up a new park, you're going to have a grace period where it's like, it's a new park, new operations, but this stuff can't linger for 5 years or 10 years. At that point, then it's like, okay, what are you doing here? Like, do you know how to run a park? Stuff like that. And I just think, over time.
You guys are right. Well, I do also, I also agree with you that the online discourse is very different than the reality on the ground, right? Like where it's like, I feel like the normies, they don't pay attention to any of this stuff, I mean, even in in the music world, like I've been following lately. I know Iceman from Drake is supposed to drop on Friday, which is heavily anticipated because of what happened with him and Kendrick. Now online, because I follow a lot of music, hip hop sort of X accounts, it's like the talk of like all these like diehard fans, right? And they're fighting with each other and all this stuff. But when Drake, and I'm not a Drake guy, I'm more of a Kendrick guy. But like when Drake's album drops, it will likely do very, very well, right? Mm-hmm. Because the average person's, the chicks that are into his music or like the guys or whatever, they're gonna like just play his music, right? They're not into the discourse online. The discourse and the reality are usually two different things, and it's a lot of like, and we talk about a lot on OG55, and we have for a long time. But like the discourse online is very much separate from what you see in the real world. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. It doesn't usually play out. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, guy.
and it's important not to insulate yourself so much and get so you get some tunnel vision there that you lose perspective of the big picture, like the normies, for example, like you said, OG. The bigger picture playing out there is is certainly the one to follow, and honestly, that's kind of the one that Disney's most interested in, right? Because they understand that the squeaky wheels, while they do say a lot online, don't necessarily get the grease because, well, how large is that market? How large is that group, and how much are they actually spending versus, like you said, the once in a lifetime vacation goer or the international guest and so forth. So there's some allocation in terms of attention that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, let's talk about an interesting shakeup that's been going on, or that's currently, I suppose, going on at Disney World, which is the fact that the Walt Disney World president, Jeff Vail, or Jeff Volley, however you say that, announces that he is retiring. So after 36 years, I guess I maybe put this for me in quotations, he is retiring after 36 years. He is stepping down in July. We do not know who is replacing him at this point. Now, a lot of the fan base, I don't think I've seen mostly online people being pretty happy that he is stepping away because he's been the president since 2020. That's when a lot of these park changes have happened. He's also one of the main reasons that the Rivers of America was removed. He was very pro that. That also seemingly was also for getting rid of a lot of other water features in the parks. But do you guys think I find the timing interesting? That Damaro's been in, CEO for, going on 2 months now. Jeff Vail, and you pointed this out, Bash, didn't get the nod for the chairman position for the experience side. And then just a little bit later, he's retiring. What do you think the chances are? Because I think it's either he's retiring for that reason, no more ability to move up in the company, or is this maybe a quiet firing, that somebody that doesn't fit Damaro's vision for what he wants to do with the company?
I think it's a little bit of both. To be honest with you, I think that he sees the writing on the wall. There's no room for, promotion, at least not for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he probably isn't in line with what Damaro is looking for. We've seen with Gorman and the board, when they want somebody, they'll move heaven and earth to keep them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, look what they gave Dana Walden. I mean, when they want somebody, they will make sure you stay. And that was actually, Gorman even admitted that. He said, we are trying to retain talent. So the fact that they didn't do that for Volley, I mean, he's a dork. Look at him. Just kidding. I was kidding. No, I was kidding. But in all seriousness, though, the fact that they didn't do that for him and the fact that he's walking away is, yes, honestly, he has no room to go up. And the reason why he has no room to go up is because he knows in this current corporate landscape at Disney, he doesn't fit the culture. Damaro's looking for maybe they're going in a different direction, and Volley doesn't fit that mold, so he was out. And honestly, I'm not sad about it. I don't think that he was great. I got to be honest with you. I don't think he's been a great president. So I don't know. That's just how I see it.
He was so excited though for these new additions at Walt Disney World, right? I mean, in underutilized space, we're finally going to maximize revenue. We're finally going to bring these things to life. We're finally going to bring these activations to the theme park space. Why wouldn't you actually stay on, unless maybe you were doing all these things for other reasons, right there? Yeah, I think there's a couple things playing out, right? Because certainly the timing after Thomas Muslim gets the job to leave after 36 years. Very strange, very weird. I think he's only like 62 or something like that. It doesn't suggest to me that he's just retiring because you know what, I've done my service and now I'm going to go ahead and step away. It seems to be related to the fact that look, there is nowhere to go from this point, right? I mean, every single move within the experiences division at this point, after running the flagship resort of the company, it would be a lateral move at best, downgrade at worst, right? Yeah, and I think that's what he's looking at right there. Also, too, OG, to your point, right? It could be a situation where it's like, we're just, you know what? If you want to stay on, here's the package. we're not going to go ahead and bust out the big guns here in order to retain you. And maybe he's also feeling that as well. It's like, you know what? If I'm getting passed over for the chairman position, I expect him to be compensated thusly. Maybe I'm not, so I'm going to go ahead and step out. It could be as simple as that. But the timing there is the most suspicious thing about this whole thing, because literally, as Rivers of America is absolutely destroyed, as construction is going on at 3 of these major theme parks right here, he leaves. You would think that Disney would be moving heaven and earth in order to retain him, in order to see these projects along at this very volatile time within the company, where there's been so much movement, and yet they didn't. And I think that really kind of shows their confidence they had in him, not just for passing him over for the chairman position, but also too the fact that he's leaving right now.
Well said. It's exactly it. These CEOs or whatever, like when new management comes in, they like to put their imprint immediately. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that he's leaving very early on in the DeMauro administration, for me, says it all. Like, I mean, he wasn't a good fit. They didn't feel like, they felt he was expendable, and so he's leaving. And he knows it. He can feel it.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point, Vash, about with all this construction going on, to leave. That's another. I mean, you got like 3 or 4 different little bells going off here about like under all this construction as well. Now is the time he's leaving, which a lot of people say like my work here is done as the rivers are torn up and things like that. But I mean, and then like it wouldn't be uncommon in the corporate sphere. And I'm not, again, this is just speculation. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but it's also not uncommon when you have higher ranking executives to basically be like, listen, we'll let you say you're retiring, save face here. Disney probably also doesn't want the optics if he was not fit the profile, maybe he was sort of quietly fired. They also don't want the optics of Disney World's president being fired as well. Right. We may never know the answer to that. It could come out. Now, I suppose if he gets a job after this, that might be kind of telling that like he didn't actually retire. Outside of somebody leaking something, we'll probably never know. But it's definitely a possibility that that's what went on here. And really, like, we don't really know. I think DeMauro, like, he's saying a lot of stuff here that I do think sounds good.
Yeah.
But he's still an unknown, kind of like, what is he actually going to do? I've always had questions about the park changes. Like, was that DeMauro? Was that Iger? Like, where did the responsibility of a lot of that lie? Who was really pushing that stuff? So we don't really know that. Maybe DeMauro was a guy that was not for necessarily all these things and is going in here and setting up the chairs on the, putting the right people on the bus that he wants. Definitely possible.
Yeah, that is very possible. I mean, the way I have heard the relationship between management of these parks and Imagineering is that Imagineering, like they view, I think Braden outlined this on X, and I do believe I've heard similar things that Imagineering views the presidents as the client for these additions and so forth, and so it's really the bounds by which these expansions are decided upon and where they actually go and all of that is all in accordance and all in keeping with what the prerogatives of whatever president is actually running these resorts must have for their parks, right? It's like, okay, like, we Jeff Valley, for instance, right? He looks at the Rivers of America and goes, well, that's a revenue suck. That doesn't necessarily make us money. It's an underutilized space in the world's most popular theme park. And so it's like, okay, well, I want that to be reconfigured. That's kind of the relationship and how these things go right there. So this is why I think Jeff Valley was maybe a little bit closer to this than maybe Josh Giamaro or even Bob Iger. Now, Josh Giamaro and Bob Iger could overrule that and say, whoa, hey, wait a minute, hang on a second. This is going to have, catastrophic consequences for our flagship resort or whatever, and say yes or no based on, budgets and so forth, power of the purse, all that. But they did not. Those things went forward. So it's a little bit of an indictment on Josh Giamaro, but I think Jeff Valley really pushed forward. And Jared, I do agree with you. I think he was given a list of proposals for the Rivers of America area. In some of those cases, maybe a portion of the Rivers of America is retained. They obviously didn't pursue that. Who that falls on ultimately, I think is Jeff. And I think when you look at his performance on the quarters and so forth, I mean, They've had a little bit of rough quarters there for Walt Disney World. It hasn't looked the best as opposed to like Cruise Line, for instance. It's kind of like, do we really retain this guy? Like, do we really move heaven and earth to keep this guy on? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I mean it is interesting, especially at the timing of all this, and really, I mean, it's interesting if Tomorrow is doing the things that he's kind of given lip service to. I mean, you could see some. I don't know if I'd call them significant, but it could be more or less changes of the way. I mean, I guess you could call it the soul of Disney, whatever you want to call it. Like, I got, I just had the feeling like when you look at the timing, he's been on since 2020, and all those park changes there. It's just like he doesn't fit what he wants to do, and Maslin gets that nod. Probably you were saying Vash, but his cruise line experience, which I think is going to be a major push for Disney in the experiences side. They're going to have a lot of growth more in the cruise lines than they are the theme parks.
Yes.
And, you do have more competition in Disney World than you have before. And so maybe they're looking, I think whoever they put in here is going to be really interesting. That's the part that whoever they replace them with, like what pedigree do they have? Do they have any big initiatives they want to do? Things like that. So,
right.
Fresh blood.
No, I mean,
thing. So for sure.
Well, no, I mean, in a supply limited business, that is the experiences division and all of its products, right? When you talk about the expansions of any of these parks, you might be able to add on 5,000, 10,000, just depends on the range of that expansion versus like for a cruise line, you add another ship, it's basically like another gate, right? So it's like, obviously there's a lot of, the barrier by which you actually expand and the revenue returns that you actually get from purchasing a cruise liner, getting it built and getting it operational. I mean, the sky's the limit on that.
Yeah. Well, what they're investing into the cruise line, I mean, it is the equivalent of probably at the very least almost 2 theme parks at this point. I think they invested like $10 billion not that long ago in some ships. So if you look at the cost of Epic, I mean, that was about $7-8 billion. So they probably have spent the amount that they could have built 2 new theme parks in Orlando on the cruise end, which kind of tells you exactly where they see most of the growth.
Yes.
Well, and
oh, go ahead, Vash. I'm sorry.
Well, OG, you're gonna want this stat before you speak. I'm telling you, this is mind blowing. Jared just reminded me. I saw this stat in doing research for the story. Apparently, 20% of that $60 billion is just going to be cruise line alone. I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty significant right there. OG, go ahead.
That's huge. That's huge. Yeah, no, the cruise line's awesome. Vash, you and I were on the cruise, like a couple years ago. It's an amazing experience. I will say though, lately, the cruise line, I think we'll talk about it probably more in depth later on tonight, but the cruise line lately has seen, they've had some challenges. I'll just say that. With some of the arrests, I don't want to get too much into it on YouTube with all that stuff. So there's been a lot of going on with the cruise lines that they got some challenges they got to clean up. Now that is kind of hard with the whole background check thing. I mean, if these people haven't been arrested for anything before or charged with anything before, their background checks will come clean. So yeah. I don't know if it's fully on Disney, because you can run a background check on a creeper, and if the creeper hasn't been charged with something, well, they got a clean background check, so they're going to hire them. So it's tough, but I do think there has to be something that needs to be done because that whole news cycle was not a good look.
No, and cruise lines had some challenges in the very recent era, actually, which is very, very interesting all over the world. Which is kind of like, whoa. And a lot of people haven't been really enthused about these Triton class ships. I mean, like the Wish or the Treasure and all of that. People are like, not as good as the Fantasy or whatever, And so there's some things where it's like, it's not ship shape, let's say. But I mean, honestly, when you look at the growth trajectory for that, it's just ridiculous. So that's why they're going in that direction right there. These are legacy properties, folks. You gotta approach it this way, and I think the company is as well. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say on that whole thing about the cruise line, those people getting busted. I agree with you. I think one thing is important to look at is, it's bad optically, undoubtedly. But you and I, we were all talking about in a group chat. It's like, okay, Occam's razor. Is Disney hiring people knowing that they have, like, let's say they have PDF tendencies? I don't think so. I think that a lot of times people get busted. They've never had an actual record before. And, there's only so much research you can do on people, and jobs that like at theme parks and cruise lines. If you have those proclivities, people are going to be drawn to those type of positions where you're around those types of, kids and families a lot. And so it's a hotbed for that stuff. We see bust all the time, but I also don't think that like it would be like a suicide for Disney if they had some sort of like, yeah, we're going to knowingly hire these types of people for what would the reason be? I just don't buy that. So I think it's a bad look, bad optics, but maybe you can shore up some of your background checks. But at the same time, if no one has ever been busted for these things, like how would you really know until something like that happens? If I was on that cruise ship with my family, I would have been very unsettled knowing there was that many people on that cruise ship getting arrested for that crime. I mean, that is crazy.
Well, and that's the thing. There's no the background checks won't do anything if they haven't been previously convicted or charged, whatever. And also, Disney hires so many people. It's like a small country. Yeah. I mean, it's just a numbers game. I mean, just the sheer amount of people you hire, you're inevitably going to have weirdos in that mix. Unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? It's scary when you have kids, though,
I think that for the Experiences division alone, I think it's well over 200,000 people that they hire between all the resorts and cruise liners and everything like that. So, I mean, obviously, you're going to have something happen in a pool that large. And this is why I wasn't really a fan of the RCID, because there were some allegations going on in the 1990s, especially, where it was like they were utilizing RCID powers in order to not pursue charges against people because of the optics and so forth. Like, it was just like really kind of bizarre and not a great look. And so I will give Disney credit on this. They came out and said, hey, we're working with authorities to, clean this up. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, that's good. That's what I want to see, because that kind of reaction has been always synonymous with the company's history. And I'm glad they're kind of overcoming that.
100%.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, you don't want that look. And hopefully, I mean, I think it was, if I can find it here. Rogue Attraction said, for the cruise lines, do they use third party for hiring? I don't know. That's when that first story came up. I was like, a lot of those cruise ships are actually like, a lot of the employees are overseas.
Yeah.
So when first was reported it was an ICE thing, I was like, well, most of them, I don't think that work on the most cruise lines, at least, I don't know a lot about them, are not actually U.S. citizens. Right. And so this actually makes a little bit more sense as to what happened here. Right. So if they do use third party, people to hire, they may start looking into that, undoubtedly.
Yeah, maybe go with somebody else.
Well, another thing too that I think we should consider, not to get too much in the weeds here, I'm going to have talking code because of YouTube, but like, I think it also makes a difference. Where was this activity taking place? Now, if it was taking place on their phones on the cruise ship while they were working, that's a Disney problem. If it was taking place at home, then Disney wouldn't know about it. So that does make a difference, because if they're using Disney's Wi-Fi to access this material, then Disney should be held accountable. But if they're not, then no, Disney would have no idea.
I would assume if they were doing it over the Wi-Fi, I mean, I would just assume there's safeguards in place. Perhaps I don't know that though.
I heard they were trading files. I don't know how those files were necessarily transmitted from one person to another. I know that like the allegation that was made was that these cast members were getting together or whatever, maybe with other cruise liners and so forth, and trading this material. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some open questions about a lot of that. But the fact that Disney was willing to work with authorities in this regard, especially as it relates to like ICE, for example, which a lot of people have strong feelings about, especially their maybe core consumer base. I think it speaks to the fact that they really do not want to be associated with this at all, and I think it's a optically a good thing to come out and say, hey, look, listen, we're working with it and we're cracking down on this. So
it's also important to keep in mind that when you're dealing with people of that proclivity, many times there's been people have talked about this where they kind of operate in these shadow groups, and so if they all get on at a place, they may all try and get everybody else they know to get on as well. I mean, this could be a really big thing that goes across other cruise lines as well. So if they I hope they root this out, root and stem, and get it all out of there if this is wherever it is. But yeah, I saw some rhetoric about it. I'm just like, I'm just not going to buy Disney is like actively allowing, like knowingly hiring these types of people. Like it's kind of crazy.
I don't see it.
You could at the best, I would say there's oversight in the hiring end of things, but not like they're actively doing that. But I just want to mention, by the way, Conductor had an emergency, so he had to go. I saw some people asking, so he had to step away. It doesn't sound like he'll be back tonight, so I hope everything's okay with Conductor.
Please.
We love Conductor, and so go over and subscribe to Conductor's channel over there and do that. So, all right, let's move on to, actually, let's talk about this. This popped up this evening, actually, is a little bit of speculation about if Disneyland might potentially be opening another park. So this is from the New York Post. Their headline here says, "New Disney Park, ? Rumors swirl about a possible third California site after new permits filed in Anaheim." There's also another one here, the San Francisco Gate, which I will try and find. I'll look for that while you guys talk, because I don't know a lot about this. But what are you guys' thoughts about this permit? Do you think this actually points to a new park, or what do you actually think this is?
Well, here's the thing. The Toy Story lot is a lot of acreage. I mean, and Michael Eisner actually bought that lot. It was a strawberry field back in the day, and then he bought it, and it's zoned for theme park. So it's ready to go. Do I think these particular permits are for a theme park? No, because I don't think Disney's ready for that yet. Not even close. What it might be, now they're saying it's for paint. I don't know. Do you need a permit to paint? That's a little bit weird. I don't know. But these are confidential permits. I know Anaheim has expressed interest in building a Skyliner sort of Skyway system from the Disneyland Resort to the OC Vibe and the Anaheim. Back in the day, it was the Anaheim Pond. I don't know what they call it now, where the Anaheim Ducks play in the Angel Stadium. So I know Anaheim wants to build this Skyway thing. Is it possible they're building maybe like a little station over here by the Toy Story lot because they know eventually it will be a third park? So they want to kind of set that up. Maybe that's possible. So I don't really know. These permits are confidential though. So we don't really know what it is. I don't believe it's painting though. I don't buy that. I'm sorry. I don't. That's just weird to me that you'd have a permit for painting, right? I believe it is more substantial than that. Is it a third park though? I don't believe that either. I don't think it's a third park. So maybe they're setting up infrastructure for that eventuality. That's possible. But what say you, Vash?
No, it's interesting. I mean, look, this is this is also why when you look at the Disneyland Forward plans and the image that they showed was like a resort complex, maybe with a little downtown Disney embedded in the middle of that for something like this. I don't buy that either, really, because this is it. I mean, as far as land in the Anaheim area goes, this is it right here. This is why Michael Eisner pursued it with such aggressivity back in the day, because he knew this is going to be the last big area of land that you actually have available to you. So I think theme park space, like you said, it is zoned for that currently. Disneyland Forward updated that zoning for mixed use, so not only theme parks can be built on this, but a wide variety of things. And we talked about that in Theme Park Conductor about what we actually thought as it relates to that. This new permit, though, I don't know about their gate. That's a little bit too early for that. The thing is, and I think we talked about this on Theme Park Conductor as well. If we look to the north right here on this,
sorry.
Well, no, you're fine. You're fine. If you want to go ahead and outline the permit. Okay. Sorry.
I didn't know it was going to take your screen away. My bad.
No. You're fine. You're fine. No. If you look right here, this is the area in which the kind of Eastern Gateway 2.0 is going to be built. This new parking structure, right? That will allow for parking here, much more than you're actually seeing right there. And in fact, I think this is an old picture. I think this has all been like leveled and so forth. And I do think this was a ice building actually. Interestingly enough, but I think Disney now has full control over all of these things, and they're looking to develop that as Disneyland Forward. And with a 6,000 to 8,000 space structure, I can't quite remember the numbers right now off my head, but this right now serves partially currently as a customer parking lot, and so it's like, okay, well, where do those customers actually park? We might be seeing a permit actually drawn up to provide for more parking here so that they can start to get work on this. That I think is more. Yeah, I think that's a little more likely. No, OG, to your point, like it could be they're pursuing that angle as well, but I think we're all in agreement, maybe, that this might not have any connection to a perhaps a third gate, at least not yet. Jared, go ahead and bring up a permit right there.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the permit here, and this is from the Laughing Place. So it says here, this was submitted in, I believe it says December 22nd, 2025. It basically says, it's got the case number. Description is east parking structure, new commercial construction. Looks like 3,257,394 square feet, 8-level open parking structure, core and shell. So here, no return date has been announced for events, blah, blah, blah. So that's the permit there. And so I don't, like I said, I don't know a lot about Disneyland, but from what you guys are saying, I don't know if I would, at least at this point, would say third gate. I mean, more than likely, like you guys have talked about that Disneyland Forward before, and what you were saying, Vash, that kind of makes a little bit more sense if that's what they're looking to expand, because you got to have you've talked about it before as well. I think both of you guys have it. It's like a chessboard. You got to move stuff. You got to move this to make this fit. So you're constantly rearranging chairs, and it would be the same thing for construction also, of having to, like, if you're going to take out a parking lot, well, first you got to build another parking lot to replace the stuff you're taking out. And so that to me would probably make the most sense.
Yeah. I think the Disneyland Forward stuff it's a 30 to 40 year plan. And I think like a third gate is on the end of that 30 to 40 year plan. I think they want to build out DCA, and you have a lot to build out now with the Disneyland Forward stuff. That symbol lot's like 30 acres, 25, 30 acres. I mean, you can expand DCA quite a bit into that lot. I'm sure they want to tap into that. Even Disneyland, on the side of Disneyland, they have some acres now from Disneyland Forward. So they're going to want to, tap into that. And you also have Tomorrowland and all that stuff too, that in the park that you can tackle. I don't think they're ready for a third gate. I think the third gate is like when they've really exhausted the other two parks, the growth will come from the third gate. But they're not there yet. We're not even close to that. It's at least 15 years or more, probably, dude. Like, it's not going to happen anytime soon, So
yeah, I think so. I mean, the thing is with it being the last big portion of land, this has been a kind of a pseudo laydown yard for some bigger props, actually, as they stage them for various areas of installation over there at Disneyland Resort. We've seen buses and so forth actually staged there as well. I think materials wise, it's like, where are you going to actually put a lot of the materials that you're actually getting for Disneyland Resort's expansions? This is why I think Theme Park Conductor actually brought up the fact that, hey, we want this to be a staging area for those kind of resources and materials, lay down yards and so forth. There's just not a lot of room to go around, like I said, Jared. And so it's kind of like, do you develop this now? No, I think that's like, that's something you do after everything else has been kind of done. It's kind of the impression that I get from their expansion plans. So again, I think Disneyland Forward is like a 40-year project. So don't expect anything soon on this front. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen. Now, within the first 10 years, OG, Disney has to spend, $2.1 billion in the Anaheim area. Now, they can spend, I think, 2.5, but I think they incur a little bit of a penalty if they spend 2.1. Yeah, which I think they're going to take, right? Because I think it's a few $1 million. But $2.1 billion in the first 10 years. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing too. It is a 40-year plan. And I think as fans, we probably want that. Because if they go balls out and they just, develop everything, we're back to square one again. We have no room,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of good that this is being spaced out a little bit. And you want that anyway for growth. We talked about it a little bit the other day on Conductor's channel where we were like, with Animal Kingdom, do you want to open every single ride at once, or do you want to open one and then the other and kind of like have multiple surges of attendance, growth, right? Like open Indy and then 6 months later you open Encanto and then, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's smart to sort of like, kind of spread this stuff out a little bit. You kind of want that. So they're going to, the third gate, this is not it, but they could be setting up some infrastructure for that third gate. They could be like, I think Vash, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's like the most likely is probably that cast member stuff because they are going to want to start building that Eastern Gateway, things like that. But whatever it is, I mean, it's exciting though. I mean, I'm happy they're actually finally starting. Dude, Vash, we covered this years ago. Why have they not started on the Eastern Gateway yet? I don't know. It's crazy, dude.
I'm telling you, okay, when Eastern Gateway, I'm sorry, Disneyland Forward was approved by the city, I expected them to like right at the front, like, hey, we're going to start on this parking structure immediately because obviously it's the barrier to entry to so much we want to do in these spaces. The fact that that's taken so long to get to this point is extremely frustrating. But look, I mean, the unfortunate part about this is that if you want to go ahead and let's go full bore into Avatar right now, it's like, well, hang on a second. You gotta, shut down monsters. You gotta, provide a method by which people can actually get to your resort via the buses and shuttles and all of that. You have to have another area where that can actually take place, and then you can go ahead and start developing that area. But we have to have these bridges and so forth that connect, over harbor, so that has to be done in accordance with the city. You have to wait for all this stuff in order to get to where you want to be. And so the fact that they have really dragged their heels on this is not great, I must say.
Here's the
It's
question.
been 2 years. It got approved 2 years ago.
I know. Go ahead, Jared.
So I thought Disney World moved kind of slow, but I think Disneyland moves even slower, which is kind of crazy. So I don't know a lot about Disneyland, but Remy D brings up a question here, and this goes into my question. Why haven't they bought more of those adjacent hotels and housing units already? To build a third gate, do they need to acquire more land? Is that one of the things that they don't have to? Okay.
I mean, that Toy Story lot is a pretty good. I think it's like 100 acres, right? It's a pretty good size.
Something like that. I can't remember. I think that lot is bigger than when DCA opened, right?
Yeah.
So DCA 2.0 is a little bit different because you have Cars Land and you have a little bit more build out. But when DCA opened, I think it didn't sit on as much land as what the Toy Story Lab currently provides. So technically, they don't have to buy up any more land in order to develop that area. And frankly, they don't even need to get permitting, especially not now with Disneyland Forward, but before that was already zoned for that specific use case right there. And honestly, I think there are efficient ways to develop that area. Like, for example, that Wescott concept, right, where you have, I'm not talking about the theme, I'm talking about like, the fact that you have like this kind of barrier or berm of resort hotels, right? In which you have maybe rooms on the higher floors, but on the lower floors, you have like show buildings and so forth. And that way you can kind of maximize that space that is, so desperately, premium at Disneyland, those kind of things.
No, 100%. Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it's a good amount of land. I do think now. I think Remy D, was it Remy D? Kiki and Luca was saying they've been buying land around the parks for decades, apparently. Yeah, and I'm sure that Disney probably uses like shell companies, right, to buy up some of this stuff, right? And even Walt Disney did that when he bought all that land in Florida. No one knew it was him. So I'm sure they're snatching things up here and there. We'll save it for later.
Well, that's what happened to the carousel, right? Remember the carousel that so Jared, if you don't know, and I'll go ahead and put this back on my screen right here so I can just kind of tell everybody there. So this area right here where you're building this parking structure, well, I mean, obviously you can see if Disneyland Resort is here and the structure's here, then they have to have a way to get from here to there. How do you do that? Well, through a shell corporation, Disney bought the carousel, which used to sit, I believe, here. Right. And then what they did, they demoed it, and now that will be the thoroughfare that people actually use to get from point A to point B. So that's kind of the example of that taking place. Now, I do know for a fact that Disney has bought some of these hotels around here. Okay, and I can't disclose actually which ones, but in this general area, that's already happened. I'm just saying that they don't necessarily need to in order to move forward with Disneyland Forward meaningfully, third park, and all of that. The other area that's of interest when it comes to Disneyland Forward is this area over here on the other side, on the west side of Disneyland Resort. This being this kind of elongated area that is now zoned for theme park use as well. mixed use. And this is interesting. We didn't get into it a little bit with the conversation regarding Coco in Theme Park Architecture stream, but remember that the borders there are zoned for like large show buildings and so forth, right? As noise barriers and all of that. So it's interesting when you get into the nitty gritty regarding all this stuff.
Yeah, and Jared, you'll get more comfortable with this when you move out here to California. When you move out here, you'll.
Listen, I'll go visit. I feel like I will go visit. I will say I love Florida. Florida's awesome, but
no, I'm just playing. But no, but that on the bottom left, right, the bottom left side, that parking lot, Jared, that's all for DCA, dude. Pretty much, that's the DCA expansion right there. That's a whole other park almost. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's so interesting looking at Disneyland because, like, I mean, you can understand why Walt built Disney World. Seeing a lot of these challenges that we're going to be in, and you got to like if you grow here, it's so different than Disney World. And just, I mean, this is very similar to like probably how Universal operates in Orlando. If they want to do something, they have to buy land, or which they do have more flexibility now. But before it was like you just got to move these pieces around. Then you got backstage areas, so it's just a constant balancing act, if you will, to try and get anything. But that's interesting, though. I mean, I listen. I'm rooting for Wescott for you guys. I think that'd be awesome.
Dude, Wescott would be amazing. Dude, Wescott, I'm telling you, and obviously they would have to rework it a little bit, right? Because you're going to have to add the IP in there, and I get it, right? But that drink around the world, the whole like cultural thing, I think that would be very popular with the locals.
Oh yeah.
There was a concept too. So crazy. So you know how Disneyland has its Disneyland Railroad, in which you have multiple stops and so forth, and you get off and you disembark in Duane Square, for example, or Toontown or whatever. They had a similar concept with the countries, or I'm sorry, continents, as they would know. And so to illuminate this for everybody, Epcot has countries around it. This would have continents, and it would have architectural styles of like Asia, Europe, and so forth, and they'd be very distinct and kind of blend into one another. Very, very cool idea. But in order to provide transportation around this kind of World Showcase 2.0, if you want to go ahead and call it that, wouldn't be via train. It'd actually be via boat ride, in which you'd have like scenes in between these stops. I think Tony Baxter outlined this. It was amazing because he's like, I think like he was saying like 10,000 people an hour, which is just unheard of. Wow. Like it just doesn't exist. But you can see the potential like of doing like a Pirates of the Caribbean meets Disneyland railroad type system, and that was just one of the many ideas they had for Wescott. So it would be really cool to see that. I mean, maybe they pursue it with that third gate right there. That'd be kind of cool, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be just an IP flavor of the month, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably. I think they would really, if they reimagine that Wescott concept with some IPs, I think that would be the way to go. But you're right, though, Vash. The likelihood is unlikely. I think you're right. It'll probably be a Disney version of an Epic Universe, basically, where you have a bunch of IP lands. You'll have an Arendelle, a Tangled Land, a Marvel area. You know what I'm saying? So
Tangled is underrepresented in the parks. I will contend because I had to watch all those movies with my daughter, and Tangled to me is the best princess movie they've ever made. I
love Tangled.
Tony, before he left the company, he expressed his frustration with management. It's like, hey, look, listen, we have an amazing brand in Tangled. It's like the hottest new thing, and we just opened at that point. It was Little Mermaid. At Disney California Adventure, it's like, oh, okay, do we have to do the song and dance where we have to wait 30 years to get, the incorporation of this character? And unfortunately, it's happening again. We have to wait this long timeline to incorporate this character, something that should be represented in the parks, no question, but isn't. It's kind of like, it's weird how that works.
Yeah. Hey, Vash, if you can do a favor, because Vash is kind of, because Jared's kind of new to the California stuff. If you can zoom into where our Coco ride is going to go.
Yes,
Jared, you're going to be shocked at how much not room we have.
yeah.
Right here, bro. Like, see that little like on the far left, that service road?
Yeah.
And the tree line?
Yeah.
That's it. That's where they're building Coco.
That's where the ride's going to go?
That's
where it's going to go, yeah.
Apparently, I don't know. There's been rumors that maybe they're going to build the bridge across Disneyland Drive, and the symbol lot will be the main show building. I don't know. As far as we know, it's just that.
This is the parade storage location right here, and then not right next to it is Toy Story Midway Mania. Just to give you an idea of like how large we're talking here.
Oh, geez.
It's, I mean, the size of a thimble, and it's like,
Well, that'd be like a weird. That'd be like an elongated show building.
Yeah.
You're just gonna
right, and that's why a lot of people are saying, "Are you gonna like turntable some of these elements right here?" Because that's the only way you can really do that if you're doing a boat ride type system, and you can see the differences between that and maybe say Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, again, we talked about this before. That's 1967, but I mean those are two large show buildings that straddle the Disneyland Railroad out there, and it's remarkable to see that. But then it's like, what does a modern construction in this area look like? I mean, this is kind of a bizarre one for me, fellas, because Coco, I mean, that's money in the bank right there. Yeah. Why you wouldn't dedicate to another area that's a little bit more hospitable to it, I'm quite not sure. This is why I'm a little bit, like, my enthusiasm for this has gone down because just of where it's located, knowing the challenges related to this.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about it too, Vash, right? Like on videos and stuff, we're like, yeah, they're probably going to close down Boardwalk Pizza. I think that's probably going to be like some queuing area or something, right? You can't really have that green roof building. Probably going to be part of this Coco equation. But even if you add that, though, I don't see it. But I mean, hey, look, I will say this: Disneyland Resort is better at space management than Walt Disney World.
Sure.
We managed to squeeze in that 14-acre Star Wars land. I mean, they moved heaven and earth, Jared. They rerouted our train. They shortened our river. They got rid of the petting zoo and the Big Thunder Ranch. I mean, they did all kinds of stuff. So you never know, right?
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, I'm listen. We're probably going to go out next year to Disneyland, so I'm gonna actually ask you guys about a crash course about Disneyland anyway. Yep. So I like learning all this stuff, and I don't. Disneyland's unique. I mean, again, it was Walt's park, so it's like one of those where I've always been really kind of interested from the outside looking in, but when I'm getting ready to go, I do want to know more about all these little intricacies about it. But I did want to give a shout out. A Wizard said those were his permits that they found, by the way. So shout out to Wizard. I'm actually not sure if I heard that.
Congratulations
on those. So did they credit you in that article, Wizard?
I believe they did. Wizard, they credited you, right? I believe they did.
I would hope so, if that's where
they should have.
I believe they did. Now, Wizard also mentioned that Fresh Baked measured the size of the show buildings, and the Coco ride won't be as small as y'all think. Like, I think, Fresh Baked did a video on how, like, the acreage of these buildings. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I mean, look, Disney has a way of they could even do a, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. At the very end, when you go into the factory and the whole scene changes into that like garden motif. I mean, maybe you go in like a giant oval, and as you pass a scene, the scene changes, and you approach the scene again anew, and it seems like you're going into a new scene. They could do that. I think you actually reported on that on Park Place, Vash, a while back or something, didn't you?
Yeah. I do believe we did. It's very impressive to see the things that Disney can actually do, and I think we also reported on the idea that Coco could take on like turntables and so forth, and different elements in order to reduce the size of this considerably. But I mean, look at Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That show building is massive, and it's next to Small World, which was massive for its time in 1966. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I get it. I understand. I mean, if you graphed out some of these show buildings, okay, you can go ahead and fit it there. There's no question, there's no problem. But this is modern Disney, and this is modern building standards. And again, boat rides require a lot of accompanying infrastructure, not just the actual show buildings themselves. You got to think about all of those things. And so I understand Fresh Bake, may have had a tremendous video on that. I still have yet to see it, but I'm just saying this is not ideal for this place, no matter how you slice it.
So what you're saying, Vash, is
nothing can stop us now.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you how. Yeah. We're gonna need this.
I'm actually still mad about how Mickey throws Pluto in the trunk, dude. You do not treat dogs like that. I am so sorry.
That throw into the trunk so haphazardly. Just get in there and get out. Shout out here to Rafael Di Verona, becomes a member. Thank you for becoming a member. All right, you guys got anything else want to add about Disneyland? About any of that stuff?
No.
Well, pretty much.
Roughly, when do you think a timeline would be a new park? Like 10 years, 15 years?
I think we're looking more 15, maybe even 20.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the same thing with Disney World. Every time that pops up, and I actually have one, like, if you look at the way that's set up now with Orlando, with Epic now, and people splitting stuff, I don't know if there is room in Orlando for another park, because I think Disney has more of a worry, which Universal's had that worry too, about cannibalization, which they did see at the Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
That pops up, I'm like, I'm not saying it won't happen. I just don't think you see another park at Disney World for probably maybe the same timeline, 15, 20 years.
They got to finish the last two.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. And here's the thing too, when it comes to Walt Disney World, right? And compared to Disneyland, in terms of growth though, and I don't mean physical growth. I mean growth, financial growth, hotel stays, all that stuff. There's technically more growth at Disneyland. And I'll tell you why. See, I'm a big Californian here. I'm selling it, bro. I am selling it. Selling it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go. No, but here's, and honestly, this is really why I feel the way I do. Disney World is already like a 2-week vacation. And because you got to figure in like Universal and all that stuff, is people are going to do that too. I mean, is a fifth gate really going to add to it? Or is it going to start cannibalizing your stuff, right? Where at Disneyland, you only have 2 parks. You can add a third park and add another day or two in that hotel equation a lot easier. People only have so much money. People only have so much PTO.
Yeah.
I think Disneyland's more realistic. That's just my opinion. I know my Florida people are not going to like me for that saying that, but I just feel like that. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Vash.
Well, it's also, I mean, look, Disneyland is not a vacation destination like Walt Disney World, right? In which you're bound to how much vacation time actually people get. It's an annual pass holder, largely demographic position right there. And honestly, the economics are a little bit different because you make your money off volume, how many people you can actually service. And that's why Disneyland expands rather than Walt Disney World maybe replaces, right? But if you're looking at that model, something very similar to that actually occurred just recently in Florida. Just wasn't with Disney, it was with Universal, right? They pursue a third gate, and wow, holy smokes, you can see those big returns right there from actually doing that. So that might actually give the confidence to Disney to say, hey, apply that same thing here too with Disneyland Resort. Open it up, get as many annual pass holders in as possible for all these parks to be saturated, which they have problems with right now. I mean, these parks do book out, and you're on a reservation system. Maybe that barrier becomes less so with new added capacity via a third gate.
Vash, I'm glad you brought that up because actually Universal Orlando probably has more in common with Disneyland Resort than Walt Disney World.
Absolutely. Much more.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I would love for Disney to take a risk and do something like that, but I don't. I agree with Vash. I think they need to flush out the rest. Like Animal Kingdom needs way more stuff in there. I would like Hollywood Studios to get an identity of some kind of what that park is before you start talking about another gate or anything like that. But I don't think it's going to happen in the near future by any means. But we do have a 5 here from Cliff Flicks. Thank you, Cliff. Says I'd be super happy if they just rebuilt Murphy.
Thank you.
That would be amazing. I guess that's asking too much.
Well, Vash. Okay, so I was hearing, and I don't want to say from who. He's a mutual friend of ours.
Yes.
He was saying that this was being worked on, but now I'm hearing kind of maybe not.
Okay, so yeah, we had that
we'll
mutual friend. Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking about Phantasmic actually in Vash Sky Podcast tomorrow because I think the state of it is just really, it's embarrassing. OG, it's embarrassing. Sorry, that's what it is. And Jared, I've never admitted this, but I'm going to admit this right now. Walt Disney World might have the superior version at this point.
Really?
That shouldn't be the case. Yeah, well, I mean, look, they at least have all their effects and show scenes and everything else working. True. Disneyland does not have that benefit right now. I mean, so many things are inoperable. So many things, lack of pyro and all of that.
No dragon.
Lack of dragon. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Okay. I have heard, OG, that the gentleman who was actually working Okay. Okay. All right. So we have a mutual friend, and the sourcing for that was related to an associate that person knew that was working on the project. Last I checked, they were reassigned.
Oh,
So it's the expectation was that they were going to accomplish this task by the 70th anniversary. That's what they originally wanted. That they wanted Murphy 2.0 installed and ready and make his big debut for the 70th. Well, we're a couple months out from that. What is celebration passing us by? So it's I don't know when. We should look for as much money as this specific nighttime activation brings in now with those dining packages. You would think fast track it, go.
mm-hmm.
We just are not seeing that, and
No.
it's really sad and really disappointing.
Well, we talked about it. If people are willing to pay for $40 lemonade,
Yep.
Disney's going to be like, hey, no problem.
Yeah.
They make close to $250,000 a night in that spot right there. Every single time Fantasmic is shows, which was 2 times a night, but add it all up, it's like $180,000 or something like that every single night from those vacation packages. I'm sorry, from those dining packages. It's like,
Wow.
Why is it in such a bad state? Maybe that's partially why, because they just keep running it into the ground because of the revenue stream that they have.
Yeah.
But I will say this though. Our Fantasmic, I saw it back in I think September, and it was like there was 0 pyro, which was really depressing. 0, not a single pyro was set off. I will say this though, I am thankful for our Fantasmic because I do believe, and we've talked about this, Vash, right? That is the reason why our river is not going anywhere.
Oh yeah, sure.
That saved our river. Because I think that if we didn't have that element, our river might be in jeopardy as well. But because it's monetized, so they're not getting rid of it.
Now I wish they would have monetized Magic Kingdom's river.
Yes, I know. I wish they would have, and it would have been a bet. Honestly, Jared, it's actually when our Fantasmic works, it's so much better because in Florida, you go in there and it's like you're going to go in to like watch like Shamu or something.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Out here in California, the park itself is the stage, dude.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Oh, bro, but the thing is that it doesn't work right now.
Yeah. That's the most frustrating thing about this whole thing is that do I have any B-roll to show you that? Maybe not. But look, the fact of the matter is if Jeff Valley was smart enough to pursue the Disneyland model, I mean, look, it could be making money hand over fist, and Disneyland certainly does. Now, Disneyland, the other thing, too, is that the restaurants, right, a lot of them take advantage of that river view, which you don't necessarily get that same relationship with the Rivers of America out there in Magic Kingdom, so that's another negative against it and all of that. But there are ways that you could have provided maybe a nighttime activation in that spot right there. You could have provided for a Villain's Lane or Cars Lane just beyond that. It's so easy to do it because, well, Disneyland showed the blueprint not even 7 years ago. It's like this is how you do that. So really unfortunate that they didn't actually pursue that. And look, Disneyland, their version of Fantasmic, when it works, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible because you just walk past this what is going to be a venue later on. It's like, oh, everything looks normal, everything is fine, and then the show erupts in front of you and utilizes all of that Rivers of America. It is awesome, including like the Columbia, the Mark Twain, so good. But yeah, it's in a terrible state.
Yeah, that's the only thing. When it's working, it's the GOAT. It is the absolute GOAT, dude.
I hope by the time I get out there, they have fixed it because I've heard really good things about it. I mean, ours is, getting back. You're right. Like getting back there is just I never like going back there because it takes forever to get out of that show.
Yes,
it's just like whenever you're out, it's going to take you at least 20 minutes, it seems. But it's a fine show. But yeah, I mean, that's a thing. And shout out to the late great Eddie Soto. He was a former Imagineer that he laid out a lot of ideas on Twitter before he passed about how you could keep the rivers and where you could put car stuff. And I really wish they would have done something with that, to be quite honest, because I think that was some really cool ideas that he had. But, you know, I think they were determined to do what they were going to do, undoubtedly. But looks like we got a $2 here from Remy D. Says, thoughts on DSNY banning phones on trackless rides?
I mean, I heard from a team lead for, what was it, Rise of the Resistance. This is a couple years ago. The majority of the breakdowns are from people losing their stuff. A hat falling, glasses falling. Honestly, yeah, do what you got to do, Disney. I mean, secure your phone. They're not taking them away. They're just telling you to put them in your pocket. You just can't see them. So you shouldn't be on your phone anyway if you're on the ride. So put them in your pocket.
There's been a lot of, unfortunately, misinformation around this topic because a lot of people are like, oh, you can't take your phones at all on these different rides. You can't live stream it all in the parks. It's like, no, that is not the case. So Disney's, what is it? Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway is the one that in which you have the ban for cell phone use on that specific attraction. That was related to an incident that occurred between a cast member and a live streamer in particular. Actually mandated that policy, which was very, very interesting. That was the event there. But yeah, I mean, the downtime, look, these wireless attractions, right? They have to be 100% on course. If they have any small little disruption right there, the system sees that as, you know, a item in which they have to mandate a closure and for safety. So it's a big deal to not have any of those items that actually fly off. Like, for example, Jared, I mean, if you ever go on Rise of Resistance or even Making Minnie's Runaway Railway, there are those scenes where they have a lot of air that blows, and what was happening was, you know, you're just blowing those ear headbands, you know, just right off. Right. And now it's like, oh no. Now the next vehicle that actually goes in that space rolls over him, and boom, there you go. You have a breakdown. So for Rise of Resistance, they have now a new policy where it's just like, okay, hey, you have to like remove your hats or whatever just to prevent that from happening. That kind of airlock scene that occurs right there, to prevent stuff from happening there. I haven't seen them implement a similar policy, making Minnie's Runaway Railway, at least at Disneyland. Maybe Walt Disney World's a little bit different, but that's where they're limiting that to. So they haven't banned phones outright for these experiences. Even in the case of like Making Minnie's Runaway Railway, I've heard that people can still like record on their cell phones if they want to, depending on the cast members actually there. So it's not like a hard policy. It's a little bit softer right now, but so Levy, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard it here. Yeah, no, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm fine with them being a little more hardline on this topic. I think it's fine.
I am too.
I mean, these rides are only 3, 4, 5 minutes. People, you'll survive without your phone for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. You'll be fine. I promise.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very
good
good
get
point.
my B-roll.
I know, right? Well, that's cool. Yeah, for us, maybe not so much. For us as content creators, maybe not so much.
Those meta glasses, I have seen people do that. I think that's how a lot of people are getting that POV footage now with stuff like that. So it's kind of weird thinking people. I always think now people wearing glasses walking by me, they're recording. I just always think in the back of my head like they're recording something, but maybe I'm wrong there. But all right, the last thing we're gonna hit, and we'll hit a little bit different angle because we have talked about this before, but I haven't got to talk about it here in a live stream with you fellas here. And that's the fact that, well, first off, Mythos was confirmed that it is going to close in 2027, which is basically...
No, God!
That's kind of my reaction to this.
Please, no!
I hate that because I love Mythos. It's a great restaurant. But obviously Lost Continent is having some demolition. All signs point to Pokemon coming in here. They also said they're going to close this down in sections, basically, as they start demoing this area. Obviously, like, have you had Mythos, Vash? I don't think you have, OG, but
I have not.
I have not.
Okay.
It was on the list. Just it didn't work out.
Well, I think they said it's closing in 2027, so there's still time. I'm going to go back and have a couple of meals because I love that place. But so the thinking. What the assumption here is, and they've even said what is that restaurant? Thunder Falls Terrace is it's like a quick service restaurant. They're going to close that down. The thinking there, that's going to become the signature restaurant of Islands of Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's likely the Mythos crew moves over there. There's some speculation that could become Hammond's, which they have that over in Beijing. And so you could still get a Mythos type of experience in the park. But obviously Pokemon coming in here is going to be the big thing here. What do you guys think now if Pokemon Land is a thing that comes in here? How big do you think this could be for Universal? Because obviously I've Wizarding Worlds were a huge hit for them. Epic Universe has been really solid. Nintendo, I think definitely has potential to continue to help them grow quite a bit, just given how big Nintendo is. I actually think there's a chance it could be a bigger impact overall than just the Wizarding Worlds over time. But Pokemon, and I looked it up real quick because I'm not a Pokemon person, but it is a massive, massive IP. It exceeds, let's see, in 2026, it was over almost $150 billion in total revenue. Obviously, you got the Pokemon cards.
It's insane.
Well, I think that it said, okay, total lifetime revenue, lifetime revenue of over $150 billion by 2026.
Well, still though, I mean that's
Still a ton,
I mean we look at Marvel, the MCU as a juggernaut because of its box office success, and that's just like total revenue. It's not even including like, for example, the splits that actually happen between theaters and so forth. And that's like 40 billion, 30 billion lifetime or whatever. So it's
Disney bought all of Fox for 70, half of the 150. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, what's even crazier is the trading card market is valued at over $20 billion. So inside of Pokemon, you have these other things, and the trading cards alone are $20 billion. That's before you even get into video games and all this other stuff. It's absolutely massive how big it is. I mean, it says it's the highest grossing franchise. You've tons of market growth, all these things. Like what type of impact do you think Pokemon could have for Universal if this is what is going in here?
I think it's going to be a Harry Potter level game changer for Universal. Like Wizarding World changed the game for Universal. I think Potter will do the same for this brand. I really do. And I get it, like the Mythos thing. I love Mythos. It looks really, really cool. The aesthetics, all that, super dope. I think Universal's looking at this going, okay, yes, you're probably not going to have as cool of an aesthetic with this new restaurant, but the menu is going to switch over there and the whole thing. And we're going to get a Pokemon Land, which is going to make $1.5 billion every year for us. It's going to be okay. I think Universal will be absolutely fine. Is it sad we're losing Mythos? It is. I mean, I've never eaten there. It looks like an amazing place, like aesthetically.
It's such a unique restaurant. The way not only the food is really good, but the building itself looks like it's in the side of a rock. You got like this. They got the waterfalls around it. You got the views inside. It's like you're eating in a cave. Like it's a very unique dining experience. Again, they have that sign up that says like that banner that's like, oh, voted the #1 restaurant. I was like, whatever. And then I went and ate there, and I'm like, holy crap, this place is amazing. I mean, look at the footage here. Like this is inside this place. It's crazy. It's very echoey in there, but the views, like it's a really great place. But I can understand, because I think we talked about this as well on Conductor's live stream, was I don't imagine Mythos is really bringing in a ton of money, though, considering it's not really difficult to get a spot in here. So I can understand from a business standpoint, if you're looking at a property like Pokemon coming in here, Mythos may just be collateral damage for that. Maybe it lives on in another iteration in some way, but it is going to be sad to see this go. And really this area, I do like this area, but it hasn't been utilized for years. I agree with you. I think Pokemon, I mean, who really knows? I mean, it could be bigger than the Wizarding Worlds. I mean, given how big Pokemon is, all the properties along with it. That's before you even talk about the other types of anime that could come into Universal Studios. I think this could potentially be absolutely massive, especially for a park like Islands of Adventure, which I do think needs some help. Like both those existing parks need some help.
Well, yeah, and also you're tapping into a market, that potential market that like international. Right? Like Pokemon is very big in Japan and what have you. Yeah, it's huge. So like if you do this land right and you offer something different than what they have in Japan, you're going to get a lot of Asian tourists, what have you. That's big money for Universal. You're bringing a lot of international people. So I honestly, it's a smart move. Is it sad we're losing Mythos? It is. But at the end of the day, I think Universal will still come up ahead with this move. And I think Universal too is very smart with this stuff. I think they're going to figure out a way to make the new experience, the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, that new dining experience. I'm sure they'll try their best. Yeah, to kind of bring it up to as close as they possibly can to that Mythos experience, right? But I mean, this is big money, dude. Can you imagine? We talked about it on Conductor's channel. Can you imagine the lines for the Pikachu meet and greet? This is going to be insane,
and if
dude.
they sell the trading cards in the park, I mean, good luck, because that stuff is insane. That whole that world is nuts.
You got to have theme park exclusive trading cards to really get the revenues in there. Right? I mean, it's like the revenue potential here is absolutely outrageous if they actually go in this direction. It's so fascinating that this area is kind of ground zero here, because honestly, it's I like this area. I do. Aesthetically, I like all this stuff. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I'm amazed at what they were able to achieve. What, 99 when Islands of Adventure opened? Very, very cool. But it is kind of the product of a bygone era in which Universal was pursuing original attractions, original theming, and so forth. And now it's kind of like, well, the game has changed. And honestly, it's been shaped by, well, its next door neighbor, the Wizarding World. And I think when that opened, that basically did this area in. Not just because it took over a lot of its, assets and so forth, but also too because it just changed the game when it came to themed experiences around franchises that people really care about. And so it's like, okay, well, now we have to pursue something else. And this area was already in decline. Like, for example, how long, Jared, did the Simbad stage show actually exist out there?
Oh, that's a good question. It has not been running for a long time.
For a long time. I don't think it lasted all that long.
Looks like it permanently closed September 15th, 2018.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously that's a big reason why people will actually go into this area and spend time in this area. With that closed, it's like, uh-oh, and then Poseidon's Fury closes, and then it's like, okay, now what? And so when I was there in 2023, it was kind of like, oh, the heyday has passed. And so obviously Universal's going to use this thing to redevelop its flagship theme park in Islands of Adventure, and especially as it's on the way to so many great experiences beyond it, right? So it just makes sense. OG, if you looked at like let's say, for example, the implementation or the incorporation of Nintendo for Universal Studios Hollywood, that really shifted the dynamic of that entire theme park, right? A lot of people, first thing they do, they go right to the doorway, they go down, and they try to get into a Nintendo as quickly as possible. That's that paradigm shift that happens in a very similar manner that took place for years out there in Islands of Adventure with Wizarding World. I think we would see another seismic shift like that again for the inclusion of Pokemon. I mean, it will move. There will be a gravitational shift.
Yeah, no, I agree. Universal Hollywood has seen a major uptick since the Super Nintendo World, a major uptick in Asian tourists. Now, not that I'm noticing, but a major uptick.
Some things here and there, just paying attention.
A little bit here and there, stuff, right? But but in all seriousness, though, major uptick. So it changed the demo for sure. I'm saying I think Pokemon is absolutely a game changer like that. I think it's going to do the same thing for these parks. I think it's huge.
Well,
it's
what's
massive.
interesting is that Universal has talked about this, and Disney kind of alluded to this as well, that one of the things with Epic is they kept saying that they were going to bring in a new demographic into theme parks. Like, they weren't necessarily going after like existing like Disney World people, like people that love theme parks. They were going to get more people in. Pokemon is probably one of those things where you're going to get a lot of people coming to this park that are not theme park people just because they love Pokemon. And you can do the same thing probably the same thing happened with the Wizarding Worlds as well.
Correct.
So that's very interesting that not only is it really Universal's goal may not be to compete for existing fan base, it's to expand it. And then from that, maybe they get into theme park. Maybe they also go to Disney, because Disney alluded as well. They said with the run-up of Epic that they expected to see this new demographic coming to the Disney parks as well. They never came out and said, because it was under Iger, that this was because of Epic, but you could put 2 and 2 together. So that's another interesting thing with Orlando and Florida just continuing, like I think 3% year after year. It seems that Florida tourism just grows. You know, I think you throw Nintendo, you do this, you get Zelda in the coming years, you keep expanding the Wizarding Worlds. Like, this is a recipe for, I mean, I agree with you, like a seismic shift in the people coming in here. And it would be something that would help out Epic if you had something really big drawing people away from Super Nintendo World and some of the big stuff at Epic to help kind of balance out some of those crowds a little bit.
Well, you're right. And what Nintendo brought to Hollywood, and I'm speaking for Hollywood because I've never been to the one in Florida, but like what Nintendo brought to Hollywood was also this Instagram culture, right? Now I'm too old for that stuff, but it's a thing, you know? And so you see a lot of people going into Nintendo World with the Mario hats or the Luigi hats, and they're doing all these reels and pictures, and they're posting them on their social media. That is going to have the same effect, I think, with the Pokemon stuff. I'm sure Nintendo will have a bunch of gear you can rock, little Pikachu ears and stuff like that. And everyone's going to want to wear them, and everyone's going to want to do their little reels for Instagram or like whatever, social media. It's a huge thing for them, dude. I mean, it's massive. This thing is going to be so huge, so huge. And it's amazing to me they secured those rights, because from what I understand, it's not like Nintendo is like the sole owner.
It's three companies have part ownership.
I think so.
Yeah.
So it was a miracle they even got them. So, I mean, and it looks like they did. So that's crazy.
Theme Park Wizard says something very interesting. Same thing happening with One Piece at FanFest nights. Indeed, right? We are seeing a gravitational shift with that event and with that inclusion, specifically because One Piece is so big, right? And that's the thing. Whether it's One Piece or whether it's Pokemon, I think you'll see, like you said, Jared, this new wave of people maybe who weren't previously interested in theme parks, or only had a tangential relationship with them, now being like, okay, I gotta see my favorite franchise come to life. And that's exactly the market that Universal is interested in providing products for and so forth. And look, I mean, it'd be huge. It would be absolutely huge to bring in Pokemon. That's why I think they're confident in saying, you know what, Mythos, you have your time, we're gonna go ahead and move you over.
Yeah. Well, and I think they would do that. I think they would move that walkway over to the left where Mythos is and give them more room, because there isn't a ton of room in the Lost Continent either. I do think they're going to go deeper back there now because they have some backstage area, but it's not a ton of real estate to work with. But I think if you're looking at maybe they're testing out Pokemon or something, it does make some sense. And I do agree with Remy D here. I would be super disappointed if the Pokemon ride is some kind of game or shooter type ride where I need to do work.
Yeah.
And I also agree here with Raphael here. He says IOA will need a major counterbalance attraction on the left wing side of the park. That's something I was going to mention. You're going to have a really strong lineup on that right side when you walk in.
Everybody goes to the right already.
Everyone's going to go to the right.
Yeah.
Honestly, I bring this up just because I know Brian works for Universal. Can't wait for DC Comics to finally come to Universal Studios, maybe.
Oh,
we talked about that, OG.
We did.
If that also happens, and I did see, what's a theme park attraction? He had a video. I haven't got to watch it yet, but I did see a video talking about DC potentially coming to Universal Studios. I would imagine that would probably go into Islands, would be my guess if they did that. If you had a theme park with Marvel and DC, if they kept Marvel and all these, like, I actually think Islands of Adventure will look like a very different park in the next 5 to 10 years. Probably studios as well. I mean, all these are going to change a lot.
Yeah,
and it's also, have to. And I find it interesting if you look at Disney's MO, which makes it's the pros and cons of both of these parks' approaches. Disney's going to use their own IP, so they're tapping into the existing Disney fan base, which is a huge fan base.
Yeah, sure.
Universal's more or less getting third-party deals to tap into existing fan bases that they don't control, but they have more flexibility with this. And so it does, like, I don't know which way, we don't know yet which way is a better approach, but I think Universal definitely has the flexibility to go after a Pokemon or a One Piece or a Nintendo that Disney doesn't quite have, unless they have one of their own IPs pop off. Because at least at this point, I think doing like when they did Pandora before they owned it, I don't know what Disney's appetite is for a third-party licensing deal right now. but this is a very unique thing that Universal could undoubtedly do. But I would be very curious about the rides they would put in here. I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm also very curious about what the environment's going to look like, because I was asking you fellows the other day on a conductor show, like, what is the Pokemon like universe, like the landscape? Like, what does it look like? Does it look like One Piece? Is it tropical, or is it like, what does the world like? We know the characters, right? But what does the world look like? So I'm curious about that.
I know. I don't know enough about it to know. I mean, I just know it's big. I don't know much about Pokemon, but I don't know those specifics at all.
Oh, gee, it looks like money.
Yeah, there you go. Hey,
That's what it looks like.
Mark Woodbury walking around in just a massive like cape. He's just wearing a cane, he's just like walking around, just pointing at stuff. You're like, oh, I guess they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly, dude. That's crazy. No, you're right though, Vash. Exactly. It looks like money. 100%.
Yeah.
That's what it's gonna be.
Don't worry, Jared. Disney will bring relief to Epic in 2027, 2029. Look, I have no doubt that the stuff that Disney's building is going to bring people into it.
Yeah.
Totally. And I don't get it twisted. I want both places to go crazy and compete with each other to get your attention. So I think new things are great for everybody. I just hope the things that are building, Universal or Disney, are great. That's would be my thing of what I would hope. But yeah, I think that you're watching in real time a theme park's arms race right now. Like, I think it's awesome. Like, watching both of them spend billions of dollars to get your attention and money, and I think the consumer wins in that area, to be quite honest. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think Jared, in Vash, you can vouch. I mean, you've been out here in Cali. Wizard, obviously, he's out here in Cali all the time too. But like the Fast and Furious coaster, I am telling you guys, that thing is so insane in person. You guys are gonna have a ball with that in Florida. I mean, that thing is unreal. And I'm telling you, I'm not even a coaster guy. I don't really usually care about coasters. Ask Vash. I don't know Intamin from the other ones. I don't know any of that stuff. But this coaster looks sick, dude. Sick. It's amazing.
I mean, are they doing full speed testing now? I think I saw on Twitter.
I think so. From what
that
I've
thing,
seen.
by the way, the spinning of it, I thought it was just gonna be like you're drifting. Those things are full spinning around some of those turns. I was like, I don't know about that, but I'm not a big coaster person, but that thing looks crazy.
I'm telling you, man, this is. I mean, and the cars look legit, and just like, dude, this is crazy.
Oh, those cars are crazy. Kiki and Lucas says that coaster may make me pee my pants.
Me too, Kiki and Lucas. You and me both, brother.
You see it. I mean, it looks a little small on video. Go there in person. This thing is massive, man. It takes up the whole hillside. You're going in and out of the Starway, up and over it and stuff like that. You're doing inversions, wall drifting. The Coaster World's never seen anything quite like this.
It's crazy. Now we do have a Brandon said he's Cali born and raised. For you, Brandon, I got a little something for you.
Woke up looking for the broccoli.
There you go, Brandon. That's for you, brother.
How many buttons do you have on your soundboard now that you have the Cali sounds to? Like 5 or 6?
I have a lot of sound effects on mine. I think you have
64 on that.
Yeah, wow. I filled up all my spots. I mean, I can go. Jared, I mean, we can go for days, bro.
I must have on the beat, hope.
So I
need to up my sound game up. I don't have that many good ones. I never I always think about it while I'm streaming, and then afterwards it totally slips my mind because my brain it's like the ADHD. It's just like out of sight, out of mind. I forgot about that, and then I live stream again, and I'm like, I should remember that. What do I have on here? I'm trying to think about something cool that I could. Yeah, it's mostly office stuff.
Well, hey, that's a great show, though. That's a great show.
Listen, it has great clips and memes you can do from that show, undoubtedly. But no, I think this coaster, I mean, that thing looks crazy. And the one in Orlando, I think, will be different, but probably just as I don't know, maybe as intense. It's going to be intense, but I think even though it's Fast and Furious, a lot of people don't necessarily like Fast and Furious, even though they just said apparently they're going to do a show on Peacock. I don't know why, but apparently they're going to do a Fast and Furious show. So maybe they're trying to make that live on, but I think the coaster itself is going to be the attraction for both coasts with this ride, undoubtedly.
Absolutely. Look at that thing, dude. That is crazy.
It's wild. I'm telling you. people are like, "Oh, what? It's a little short though. It's only like a minute long." It's like, can you stand much more? Like, it's gonna be intense.
I don't know how much more
guys.
it's gonna take. Wait, 4 shows? Oh my gosh. Well, they do have 10 movies.
What?
What are they gonna do? Like Dom, and each character gets their own backstory? That's crazy.
That's
That's
wild.
part of
Well, I guess
the
that's what
family.
it does. Part of the family. I do wish when you got on here, you got like a chain and you become the family in that whole thing.
That would be pretty cool.
Dom did a Vin Diesel impersonator out front, just be like, "Welcome to the club." I'm like, oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
You can't be as bad as the ride with Supercharged. That thing is a cringe fest. That ride the entire time.
Yeah.
It's just, oh my gosh, I think it's terrible.
Oops, sorry. Almost hurt the keyboard. No, this is why Universal's stepping away from that. And it's like, okay, if we're going to have Fast and Furious presence at all, it's going to be in the form of this coaster right here, which just looks insane. I think I have some more testing footage somewhere around here. Yeah, there you go. This is just like, it is absolutely wild what they're doing here. Very ambitious. Again, onboard audio as well. So that's another thing. That's a really cool, unique function of this coaster right here. Unlike Velocicoaster, it didn't have onboard audio. This will.
Yeah.
You can see right there the kind of inversions there, and to actually see the spinning element on display. It's just, this is going to be super, super cool. Cannot wait to actually ride this ride right here. The entire, I can tell you right now, OG, Jared, the entire coaster enthusiast community has all their eyes trained on Hollywood.
Oh, I have no doubt. That's absolutely insane.
It's wild.
Well, OG, if you do it, listen, I want to see the video and the full review of what you think of this coaster.
Absolutely.
Unless you pass out, you don't remember. You're just like, I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, no, exactly. I want to do it at least once. At least once. I mean, this thing is crazy. I mean, it's a couple minutes, just, I don't know. Probably end up
Buck
doing
it up, OG. Come on.
Come on. Front row. Let's do this.
Let's do
go.
it.
Let's go.
It was like, I always like that Punisher ring, like, no, wait. That's just OG as it takes off. He's like, oh, no.
Oh my god!
Fantastic.
I love it.
No, I mean, obviously, there's some cool stuff coming, but we are at the almost 3 hours.
3 hours.
So we're gonna hop out of here again. Shout out to the Theme Park Conductor. He had to dip out for an emergency, so go over to Theme Park Conductor. Go subscribe over there to his channel. He does some good stuff over there, and he's always got the Conductor Sunday live streams you can go check out with various guests that come on there and break down a lot of the stuff that goes on in the theme park realm. But before we get out of here, I just want to thank you guys for being here. Greatly appreciate it. And OG, where can they all find you on the interwebs and all your I was going to say musings is a good word. Musings that you do on YouTube.
Yeah, you can find me right here on YouTube, Orange Grove 55, talking about theme parks and studio stuff, just like these fine fellas. And you can find me on Instagram and X, Orange Grove 55. And that's about it. And I had a great time with you guys, everybody in the chat. I want to thank you, Theme Park Wizard, Brandon, God's Servant, John, Make It Rain, everybody, Kiki and Luca. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a really fun show. And thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely. And Mr. Vash Sky, or I thought I was original. I said Vashua, but apparently that was already taken. But, maybe I'll act like I made it up. I'll take credit for it, maybe. But go check him out. And he just hit 5,000 subs. So congrats to you, Vash, there. And where can they go find you and your growing channel talking about all this stuff that we basically just talked about here for 3 hours?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of this and a whole lot more from my unique perspective. Occasionally we do have guests on, like Jared, like OG. So definitely you want to stay tuned for that. No, we have the Vash Sky Parkcast over there on YouTube. Vash Sky also in the X realm right there, where all those links can be provided. Tomorrow on Vash Sky Parkcast, we're going over, I believe it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern, by the way. Well, we're going to go over a lot of interesting news related to the parks, like you just saw right here, but maybe a little bit spicier takes. Like, for example, apparently there was this undercover sting operation that Disney actually conducted with one of its maids over there at one of its resorts. Very interesting stuff indeed. What were they doing? Well, you'll learn all about that and more. Also, too, somebody was maybe arrested for perhaps assaulting a cast member. Very interesting stuff. What happened in that case? We'll go ahead and cover that and much, much more. Phantasmic, for example, it's kind of embarrassing right now. There's a lot to go over for sure. That coverage is going to start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, so definitely join us for that. And every single Saturday, we have Vash and Vixen at 3 p.m. Eastern for the members of the channel. This week, we're going to Hawaii in order to showcase the history of Disney and its relationship with Polynesia. Very, very cool. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely check us out at the Vash Sky Parkcast. Very much appreciate you, Jared, for having me on. And OG, well, I appreciate you, good sir. Very much so.
I love it. I love it. I have a history of Polynesia too, but we won't get into that today. But we do have a super
Get out of here. OG, come on now. That is...
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Remy D.
Amazing.
Yeah, we had our 10 from Remy D. Thank you, Remy D. Says, thanks for hosting. Great discussion, Jared. Well, thank you guys for being here, everybody in the chat. And listen, I know, I see in the chat sometimes people don't agree. That's totally fine. Listen, I think
that's cool.
I love a good argument, disagreement, rebuttal. It's all in good fun. So feel free to disagree or agree and all that good stuff. But definitely Vash is I didn't mean to imply Vash talks about way more stuff that we talked about here. He goes very in depth.
No.
So go check out Vash's channel. Absolutely. Good stuff over there. And then I was going to talk about I noticed the stuff like when guest bad behavior. I do videos from time to time on it just because I am mesmerized by the decision making of some people. Like you see, and I was like, how did this happen? Like, how did you decide? There was one I did not that long ago, and it was a guy that they were in Magic Kingdom. It was to meet Maribel, and decided to push a cast member a button line. I'm just like, how in the world? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I watch people and I'm just like, I've seen things in real life happen. I'm just like, how did you do this? Like, how does this remotely take place? It's more or less me just mesmerized by bad decision making, but I don't know. It's always fun to point at those things. So I'm not surprised to hear that somebody assaulted a cast member, but you're just like, that's just, don't do that. But
kind of messed up.
The reasons for it too, you'll see. It's just like really, like honestly, it's terrible.
My favorite are the police cam footage I saw one where these brothers were getting kicked out. They got annihilated drunk, and the cops show up and they're brothers and they're fighting. And the guy's like, "You've been trespassed. You got to leave." So the guy leaves and he walks back like 10 minutes later, and he's like, "No, I need to go talk to my brother." And I go, "You're now going to be arrested." And he's like, "What did I do?" He's like, it's just insane stuff all the time.
Fellas, I think Kiki and Luca has a great idea for a future show.
Oh, we can totally do that.
Bro, amazing. I love that idea, Kiki and Luca. That's a fantastic topic.
I can get a few of those together. And like the best ones are some of the channels that do the body cam footage, because Universal has some crazy ones too. They're mostly, but man, you see some stuff where you're just like, I kind of wish I would see it sometimes in real life, but just you're just watching people have absolute crash outs in real time, and just like
I think the Toontown Brawl's got to be at the top of that list. Hard video to find nowadays, by the way, but I'm sure
I used a clip of it the other day. I actually downloaded it because I thought it was gonna be hard to find. That one is like, you think it's gonna stop, and then it just goes again, and then you find out they're all a family. And you're like,
that was just a crazy incident. One of the most noteworthy in Disney park history.
And what a lot of people don't know too is like, they're like, why is security not stepping in? I'm like, that's the thing. They won't touch you unless it's a police officer. You're kind of on your own. And that's a little unsettling, I think, for some people to think about. But it's like, if those situations happen, because you got like people in the park trying to break this thing up, and then like it's just, that one is the craziest thing I've ever seen in a theme park. Absolutely. But
yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Anyways, thank you everybody for hanging out in the chat. Thank you everybody for the super chats and the gifted memberships. Xvoot, Juliet, Magical Hops, Remy D had multiple ones. Kiki and Luca, Raphael became a member, Clip Flicks, and I think that was all of them. So thank you guys very much for hanging out. And like we'll be doing this every Wednesday going forward. Oh, I will say Theme Park Philosophy did have to, he's no longer going to be on the show right now. He just had some scheduling things. So he might come back. We're trying to get him back because we like his perspective, because he has very unique ways of looking at stuff. So he may or may not be on here very often, but I just want to mention that because we Appreciate theme park philosophy, and
Absolutely.
we will get out of here. So you guys have a great evening, great rest of your week, and we will talk to you guys later. Bye.
See you later.